Hi friends, good evening, and this is your host Ankit Khanelwal joining you from Delhi, India, and we have Kimberly Callum joining us from Raleigh, North Carolina, and we have our founder and producer, senior executive producer Nick Palaveda joining us from Raleigh, North Carolina. Welcome to IBM TV podcast on Thursday, and I think Nick, we have a great lineup today with people from different domains discussing about podcasting and how the life is changing since the COVID happened. Everything is online now.
Yeah, we have a great lineup. We have a very special guest, Rick Grosner, who has the highest IQ ever, who's actually going to be joining us. I've known about him. He has his own Wikipedia page. I've read about this guy for decades. I mean, he's world famous. So here's an opportunity to actually get to meet him. I'm super thrilled. And of course, then we have our regular lineup. Bill Trezevant, who will be giving us our Washington report, and Jim Eade with the Eade Foundation will also be joining us later on today, maybe during the same time. Timur Gera will be joining us, who actually holds the world record for blindfold chess, 48 game simultaneous blindfold chess. How these people do this stuff, I haven't a clue. So hopefully we'll get to learn a little bit more about who they are, what they do.
I just want to know how you get, tested to become the world's smartest person. I mean, to me, that is a superpower. That is such a natural, cool, superhuman power thing to have, like the world's smartest brain.
Yeah.
Nick, I thought you were.
I know, but see, the thing is, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you come to IBM TV, and the humbling experience shall take place.
But then Ankit came around, and I go, "Wow, he's the smartest person." But my dad told me when I was real young, Kim, the smartest person in the world is the one who surrounds themselves with smart people. Yeah. So, I'm just every day surrounding myself with more smart people.
It seems to work that way. So let's start out and find out what's happening in the Tower of Power, not necessarily the smartest people in the world, but certainly some of the most powerful people in the world. Let's get our Washington report in. Do you have the Washington report?
Yes, right here.
From IBM TV, International Broadcast Media, this is your report from Washington. There are 61 days left until the presidential election. Joe Biden heads to Kenosha, Wisconsin, one day after Trump stating that he wants to heal and put things together, end quote. Biden is also stepping up his attacks on Trump's failure to release his tax returns by asking, "What are you hiding?" Biden's campaign will announce today the endorsements of over 100 Republicans, including ex-Republican governors from the coalition of Republicans and Independents for Biden. Biden has also called for, in addition to the presidential debate this month, Biden wants a fact checker run on a ticker in real time at the bottom of the screen during the debate. Trump also made campaign news with his plans to withhold federal funding from, quote, anarchist jurisdictions, end quote, in the United States, targeting cities and states governed by Democrats. Trump also encouraged citizens of North Carolina to vote twice, once by mail in ballot, and then again in person to, quote, test the system. Some view this as his attempt to lay the groundwork for a disputed election result post-November 3rd. Trump's call for intentionally voting twice is a federal crime. Observers are calling this new shift in strategy Trump's, quote, crash and burn campaign. Next, the kids are now involved. On the heels of Facebook's termination of Russian accounts, PayPal has followed suit, terminating accounts connected with a Russian influence scheme. The accounts paid UK and US citizens to write divisive articles about Democrats and stir up division ahead of the US elections. In addition, and separately, Facebook announced that it will not accept any new political advertising the week before the election. In other news, there are no new developments regarding the comprehensive COVID-19 relief package, the funding bills to avoid a government shutdown in 4 weeks, or the post office. Separately, the Center for Disease Controls, under its emergency public health powers, is halting all evictions through the end of the year. Next, from a different view, the space station has sprung a leak for the second time since 2018 and is losing oxygen. While the crew is in no immediate danger and emergency evacuation plans are in place, the leak is significant enough to cause concern. NASA is investigating. Next, in an update to yesterday's IBM TV's panel discussion on patents and trademarks, McDonald's is suing Burger King in Australia over Burger King's, quote, Big Jack. I guess we'll see who takes the last bite. Finally, the current COVID death toll from Johns Hopkins University is over 185,747 American souls lost with no end in sight. That is your report for this day, September 3rd, 2020, from IBM TV, International Broadcast Media, smart television for a smarter global community, from dictatorships to democracies around the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I'm Bill Trezevant.
Well, that was great, Bill. And the thing is, you're right to say good morning, good afternoon, good night. I just got off the line with our viewers in Malaysia and Bangladesh, and it's good night there because it's late in the evening over in Bangladesh. But certainly good to have you on as our panel. And of course, we can't forget the famous Jim Eade, our FIDE chess master and multi-talented person from San Francisco, who got up early to be on IBM TV because I think it's 7 o'clock or a little bit afterwards. And then I don't want to waste any more time to bring our special guest, the smartest guy in this room and almost every room he goes into with the world's highest IQ, who I've followed for literally decades because very seldom do people do that. Frankly, I don't even know how he does it. But he also has a great life story. I want to bring in from California. I guess everybody who's smart lives in California. Rick Rosner. Rick, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. I think I was number 2, and somebody just emailed me, so I might have fallen to number 3.
Oh, poor baby. You know, the thing is,
IQ isn't really intelligent.
But Rick, you know that you still have numbers. We don't have numbers in IQ. You still have number 1, 2, 3.
You know, I've scored in the 190s, but it's you know, when you're talking, it's all unofficial tests because IQ was designed just to help kids get the right educational resources, and you don't need to know whether somebody's got a 150 or a 180. You know they're going to need a certain kind of help in school because they're going to get bored. So the kind of tests you take in school stop at 150, and then it's just a bunch of hobbyists who've written their own, homebrew tests to go above 150.
Yeah, but the thing is, you've also had a very interesting life. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, and because also when you're blessed with that high IQ, you also have to deal with regular people, which could be a challenge. And so you've had an interesting life. Can you tell us about that?
My Twitter handle is dumbass genius because for everything smart I do 2 or 3 dumb things. Like I spent 10 years in high school off and on. In the 80s and 70s, because I liked high school. Then I became a TV joke writer for 25 years. 25 years also bouncing bars, was a roller skating waiter, have been a stripper and a nude art model. I was a stripper in Colorado where you don't have to be good looking. In the big cities like LA, you want to be, all you have to be willing to do is take your clothes off.
Right.
I'm there.
But by the way, the stripper, there's something.
Jim might join you on that one.
the bouncer at a bar is also a trait of people with high IQs. They tend to be bouncers in bars. Okay, it's similar to the people that are successful in business tend to drop out of high school, like Bill Gates, and drop out of college, like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. So it just seems to be a continuous trait. But tell us about these IQ tests. We know that they measure something usually up to about 140, and then you have to take these special tests if you want to go beyond that. What were you doing? Were you taking special tests? I mean, why would people do that?
It's like people who join Mensa. You're desperate to have a credential. If you have nothing else going on, you can take an IQ test and attempt to brag about that. Though that's always self-defeating because I think Stephen Hawking said if you brag about your IQ, you're a loser. And IQ has been steadily.
Stephen who?
There's a balance because Susie Orman says you can't brag enough. Self-promote, right, Nick?
Yeah, she was a shameless self-promoter.
Shamelessly self-promote.
Shamelessly self-promoter, right?
Yeah, but
nobody knows you're smart.
Right. It's since the 60s it's been declining as something that people think is legit. It's like the SAT and the ACT are kind of going away in college admissions. The idea that you can do a global test of ability and that will add anything to an applicant's portfolio predictively. The SAT doesn't help you tell whether a kid's going to do well in college beyond what the rest of the kid's credentials tell you.
Yeah, but doesn't the SAT only really measure two metrics, math skills and English or language skills? They don't really expand beyond those two metrics that I've seen.
Right. The ACT at least is knowledge-based. They test what you've learned in school. The SAT, the A in SAT doesn't even mean anything anymore. It used to stand for aptitude. But then once it was proved that you could study effectively, they decided to get rid of the aptitude because now you can develop it.
Right.
IQ is supposed to be this inherent thing you're born with, but it's not really. I've by taking a gazillion IQ tests, I've improved my ability to score well on IQ tests.
Right. In other words, there's a learned function. It's just like Jim at chess. Since he plays a lot of chess, he can get good at chess. I mean, or like me, I played a lot of chess. I actually got good at chess. There's a learned function to that. It's not just it's just not set in stone. But wouldn't it be more like this, Rick? The way I'm looking at it is a person who's, let's say, 7 foot tall. You would say, well, he's going to be a good basketball player, but not all 7 foot tall people are good basketball players, but all people that are 7 foot tall are 7 foot tall. When you say that's the same with a G-score, in other words, you could have a 190 IQ. Not everybody has a 190 IQ, but it also isn't what you can develop out of that.
That's
190
right.
IQ.
And like, it doesn't necessarily determine your destiny, and certainly not necessarily in a positive direction. There's this guy who's in prison now who took his, almost highest IQ in the world and started a sex cult. This Keith Raniere guy.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of people with super high IQs who, like, I live kind of a pretty regular, little life, where, I've got a wife and a kid, and I've had, among the weird jobs, I've also had like normal jobs, and it doesn't have to, knock you. Like I was talking with somebody else about this, and I was thinking Ron Jeremy is he's now in prison or in jail awaiting trial. Like I live kind of a pretty regular, little life, where
Who's feeding back?
Yeah, I'm getting some kind of echo. Do I need to do anything here?
No.
No, now it's gone. It's gone. So anyway, there's this Ron Jeremy guy who was a school teacher and then turns out to be gifted in one particular area, and he let that, you know, give him a career as an adult film actor and then as a rapist, and now he's going to go to prison for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the thing is, it doesn't indicate that where your life is going to go. But also the thing is, when you're a child and you're hanging around with what I would call the normal people, doesn't that create some issues for you once you discover you're not normal?
Well, I mean, I already knew I wasn't in first grade. They tested me to see if they should bump me up a grade. And I still have the report, and it says, yeah, he scores well on IQ tests, but we shouldn't bump him because he's terrible on the playground. He doesn't have any friends. And they made the correct decision to leave me where I was, but because I would have just been even worse off being a year younger than everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's really no place for gifted people. They had a whole article on Time magazine about gifted people in the United States, and there's nowhere for them to go. They basically get thrown in the class with everybody else, and good luck to you.
Well,
did that happen to you?
It was like that. There was very little in the way of additional educational resources. But in the 21st century, a lot of parents, tiger parents, are on the lookout for exceptional talent in their kids, and there are more resources.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so things have changed since
somewhat. Our daughter grew up in the LA public schools, and California schools are broke because of something that passed in the 70s called Prop 13 that limits property taxes, much of which goes to schools. So the LA public schools have gifted programs, but they have super high bars to enter because they don't have any money to have enough of the programs. So my wife was getting lottery tickets to see if your kid gets to enter a gifted program. So we were constantly like working with our kid to see if we could generate the test score she needed to qualify. There was one program where you needed an IQ of 150 to get in, because there was only one of these classrooms in the whole San Fernando Valley, which serves 2 million people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the thing is, it can be actually pretty different. But how valid are they once they go from 140 to 200? In other words, like you were saying that the tests were designed mainly by hobbyists, as opposed to is there any scientific studies relating to these tests that are out there in that high end range?
Because it's kind of, I consider it a weird sport played by very few people. It's like the world's strongest man competition, where you get these guys who are naturally strong, and then somebody who's 6'8" from like Finland, and who like bulks up to 380 and learns how to tow a truck with his teeth, or lift a stone that's 2.5 feet across. And it's like it's just a weird like interest area. The most thoroughly examined ultra high IQ test is probably the MEGA test, which has been taken by
the MEGA.
Yeah, about 5,000 people, but you can't take that test anymore and get a score that people believe in, because it's been around since the 80s, and all the answers are available if you poke around online. Yeah,
but so you're telling me that people would cheat on an IQ test? Is that what you're saying?
Over time, yeah.
Okay, because we actually have discussions about people cheating in chess, and I'm going like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, well,
who are you cheating? I don't get it.
Friends, and if I play the free version, but if you pay the Words with Friends people, you get all these extra cheats. You get to trade your letters without losing a turn, and I can tell when I'm playing with somebody who's doing some kind of cheat thing, because they come up with insane words that nobody's ever heard of.
Right. Okay. Yes,
Wow.
Ankit.
So I mean, people.
Oh, Ankit, your mic is muted. Just a minute. Okay. From New Delhi, Ankit.
So, Rick, I would like to know that who sets the IQ test paper basically, because the people who conduct the test, what kind of IQ they have?
The tests go from like the super hard tests. You know, if you get one question right, then that gives you an IQ of at least 120. And it's people who, I don't know, they like solving puzzles. It's also, there's also a cultural thing where South Korea and maybe Taiwan are big on testing. And so there might be people from, you know, if you look at the country profiles, like Paul Koymans, who's a test builder, will put up the numbers of people from various countries who've taken his tests. And, you know, you can see which countries are interested in this kind of thing.
Yeah, did Kevin Langdon, was he the one that wrote the Mega and the Titan test, or
that's Ron Hofmann?
Or was Ron Hofmann? Okay, so he's the one that wrote the that. But didn't Kevin Langdon run the Mega Society at one point in time?
Probably so. Back in the 70s, he had his own tests, and he eventually quit making the tests because there are people who get way too dedicated to breaking into qualifying for a high IQ club. And this one guy said, there's not just Mensa, there are these other clubs where to qualify, you have to score at various levels, all the way up to an IQ score of 1 in a billion.
Right. Yeah. You know, wouldn't you say
a million organization called Mega?
Right.
And this guy kept trying to get in based on childhood scores from the 1940s. And we're like, we don't know, these tests haven't been used in 40 years, and we don't know, we can't, A, we don't accept childhood scores, and B, we have no way of knowing what your scores actually mean because there are no test guides around anymore. And the guy was just got angrier and angrier that we weren't letting him in, and he eventually he charged me with mail fraud because he thought that his subscription to the journal entitled him to IQ verification services, and he charged Kevin Langdon with practicing psychology without a license. And we're just trying to have fun coming up with these tests, and Kevin decided it's not worth it to fight this in court. I'm just not going to release my tests anymore.
Yeah, Bill, you and I will always be employed because people always have stuff to fight over. That's why I look at it. So even that, but
you're talking. I sued Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Yes, I remember following that. I was going to ask you that question, but I don't know if that was an sensitive question. It dealt with, wasn't it, the highest
altitude world capital city?
Right. Yes, I remember looking at that. I was going, that's a pretty interesting case. But Jim actually was with FIDE, the Federation of International Chess, and he was the U.S. representative with that. And he's a FIDE chess master, so he's a very strong chess player. But Jim, when you were with FIDE, the International Chess Association, they never had disputes or arguments or chess cheating, did they?
Well, in any time that the stakes are so small, the politics are that vicious. So there's not a lot at stake in FIDE, so the politics were quite bad.
Okay, right, yeah, because the thing is, it seems to me that we see there's a high correlation of what goes on the chess community and also what goes on the high IQ societies. But make no mistake, when people say Mensa, it's the bottom of the high IQ societies. It's not the top, but everybody's heard about the bottom, not the top. Yes.
If you go online, I think there's still a website that has an article titled "A Short and Bloody History of IQ Society."
Yeah, I did read that. I think that was actually Kevin's article too. But it's a quite interesting group of people. Yes, Kim.
So I just it's a pleasure meeting you. I always love to speak with whom I call brilliant minds. I'm married to one. And I find it sometimes brilliant minds have a certain characteristic. I also sit on the board of advisors or board at NC State Computer Science Department and other educational institutions. And there has to be, it would be nice to understand how brilliant minds need to be treated. Each one, I'm sure, is different. But they all have certain characteristics. But there's a better way to work with them so that they don't get left behind, because a lot of times I think a lot of them get left behind because they get bored in class. Just like we've interviewed a few people who go, oh, I went to college, I got enough of what I wanted, didn't get my certificate, but moved on and became, great. But they could have gotten their certificate, I think, if they things were catered a little bit more to these brilliant minds. What is your input on how we can work better with brilliant minds such as yours?
Well, I mean, in the case of myself and a lot of kids who are, academically gifted, you might be dealing with social awkwardness. Mm-hmm. I've certainly wrestled with that, and it determined a lot of the stuff I did, a lot of the fool's errands I went on. In my late teens and early 20s, I read a book by the guy who wrote North Dallas 40 called Texas Celebrity Turkey Trot. And in this book, it was about the beginnings of celebrity culture and reality show culture. And in that novel, everybody who was a jerk got what they wanted. And so I read the book and I'm like, I have to become more of a jerk. Mm-hmm. And I have to, as a piece of meat, I'm not going to get what I want from being smart. So I started lifting weights, and I'm like, I started working as a bouncer and a stripper because I thought I wanted a girlfriend desperately. And eventually, that worked out.
Well, you got married, but the mindset is you're a brilliant mind. You see things you want, but you feel awkward. I know, because I know, and I find it very hard for you guys, and a lot of people get left behind. They don't even try. It reminds me of the movie Real Genius. Do you remember that movie?
Yep, I love that movie, especially.
I do too. I love it.
There's a beautiful woman in the movie who makes it her mission in life to sleep with the 10 smartest people in the world. I'm like, why can't she exist in real life?
That's a movie. It's Hollywood. It's all fiction, Rick.
There's also in that movie, there's a guy who lives kind of in the tunnels under Caltech. And this guy makes his fortune by entering a McDonald's contest 1 million times. I'm like, I'll do that. And I started entering contests hundreds of times.
Rick, I got a tip for you. Go to geniusgroupies.com.
Okay,
and
thanks.
You'll be set.
Well, I've been married for 29 years now. So
yeah, me too. That's the problem. Yeah.
That's the problem? Okay, maybe we should record that part of it.
Things with
maybe we should record
kids are better now, but things are better for all sorts of kids. That in the 70s, people have no idea. People who are younger than I am, people under 40 have no idea how bad the jocks versus nerds thing really was.
Right.
Yeah. Revenge of the Nerds was also a good movie.
Yeah, and
Revenge of the Nerds.
And speaking of nerds, I think I'm going to reach across the ocean and find somebody who's probably would qualify. Oh, there he is, Ben Coates from the Great Britain.
I knew it. I
just had to bring in somehow Ben Coates from Great Britain, which, by the way, he lets us know that, Rick, that he doesn't live in the United Kingdom. He lives in Great Britain. Okay. Now, Rick, why don't we call ourselves the Great United States of America? Why do we just call ourselves the United States?
Well, because we started off as a bunch of colonies and then kind of loosely agglomerated ourselves.
Yeah, but couldn't we call ourselves the Great United States of America so we get back to
right now?
Because they call themselves Great Britain.
Great has been co-op. Great is probably a political hot potato now.
They trademarked it.
I would concentrate on the United bit at the moment in the States. I would. I'd worry about that a little bit first.
we're great at COVID, getting COVID. But yeah, maybe we can trademark that. And
can we trademark Great United States of America?
It's been taken.
He's already fact checked it. That's incredible. Okay, so for people who have just joined us, especially our friends in Great Britain, we have Kim Calhoun from. I got moved around. I wonder how. Kim Calhoun from the Computer Science Department, Vice Chair of the Computer Science Department at North Carolina State University, also with IBM TV, and Kit Kendall from New Delhi, or the greater New Delhi area, and is also director at IBM TV. The world's smartest person, and certainly the smartest person in this room, Rick Rosner. He says, well, I'm only number 3. Hey, listen, Rick, high enough for entertainment purposes.
What Churchill said about democracy, that it's the worst except compared to everything else. And IQ is the worst at measuring intelligence, except compared to any other way of measuring.
Yeah, there's no other metric. But super high IQ guy modestly says
desperate to have a credential. So at my last job, I wrote for Jimmy Kimmel, where and I got called an idiot just about every day. So it was a nice break to go home and take IQ tests where I could get credentials that said I wasn't an idiot.
Yeah, but I was wondering where all the script writing come from, because and these things come from, because I listen to it, I go, these people got to be really smart to come up with that stuff. So what they really do, seriously, the people who deliver it are just talent. Forget it. The people actually are the story writers and script writers. That's the real talent. Now I know where they go to get that. They go to people like you, Rick. Jim Eade with the Eade Foundation, also a FIDE chess master. We have Bill Trezevant, an attorney, also with IBM TV for our Washington reports out of Washington, D.C., and Ben Coates, who has joined us from Great Britain with Moguls Media, and you don't have no competition there on the IQ side, Rick. You'd slaughter all the people there, and especially the people in Great Britain.
But what does it say about my actual intelligence that I would spend thousands of hours taking IQ tests? You have to lose points just for that.
Yeah, but the thing is, but hey, Jim, people do that playing chess, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's how society protects itself from super disruptive smart people. There are all these like rabbit holes you can go down. Like, if real estate somehow attracted the smartest people in the world, then it would squeeze out all the realtors.
I've had to have a holiday because of this channel, Rick, recently. So, a week away from Nick has made me feel refreshed. So that's how I picked my IQ level.
but see,
he's much smarter today than he was last week.
We're hoping, Rick, that some of the smartness will rub off on Ben in Great Britain and may actually improve that foggy little island that they call England, or whatever they call it over there.
My kid's over there right now, and
you have kids over there right now? Are you serious?
Yeah, she's getting her doctorate in London.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which school over there? Which school?
King's College.
Oh, King's. Okay, right. Ben, you know where King's College is, right?
Right next to Queen's.
Yeah,
it's right. It's near where Jim goes for his Indians, Nick. To be fair, that is.
Yes. What we learned on IBM TV.
Bill's got a question than I do.
Okay.
Well, actually, I was going to simply just comment, and that is, Rick, we could certainly use you here in Washington. And everybody else you're associated with. But let me ask you this. I mean, there are oftentimes, have you ever thought to yourself after you've had a conversation with someone, say, who is IQ challenged, that, I think I'm dumber for having spoken to you, and I've just lost that time of my life, and I'll never get it back?
Well, I live on Twitter, and I get that feeling a lot there. In real life, though, I'll give myself a grade for communication with people, because I used to, I worked in bars, and bars kind of are set up to make communication tough. Bars used to be young. Again, this is a thing that younger people might not have experience. But bars used to be the place where you went to hook up with people, compared to today, where now bars are places where you go to have, $20, hand-built cocktails that take the bartender like 8 minutes to make. It used to be in the 70s, there was no internet to go on to hook up. So you went to bars, drinks were $1. Everybody got super messed up, noisy, dark. People were drunk. The bars were set up to help people who were bad at communicating hook up with people, because everybody's handicapped by the conditions. So, and my job as a bouncer in a bar was to get drunk people to do stuff. So I would give myself grades for the effectiveness of my communication under horrible circumstances. And I always
bars in those days gave guys like Rick and me a chance.
Yeah. I did the math, and it was you had about a 1% chance on any given night of going home with somebody. So you had to spend 2 nights a week for a year to have a reasonable expectation of hooking up.
I've heard
the numbers game.
I've heard it's why drinking at home's the popular, Jim, is that they don't bump into you now. Is that right? No?
Say again.
I heard it's why drinking at home is so popular now in the States, Jim. Is that right? So they don't bump into you when they're drunk.
Well, the thing is, I better not answer that question. Let's welcome our new guest. And,
okay, we're going to welcome our new guest.
My ears are shot from so many nights in loud bars, so I didn't even get the question.
Okay, well, that's pretty good, because there's some questions on IBM TV you really don't want to answer, since it's broadcast to over 100 countries right now and thousands of viewers. So anything that you say can and will be used against you in a court of law in some countries. So you got to be very careful. And with that,
my wife always last night she says, "Do not say anything stupid."
That's a great idea. And IBM TV is smart television.
I'll just keep my mouth closed.
Mira has just
take over, please. I'm begging you.
She is actually an attorney, but she's decided not to practice and do things smart, but it's also worked heavily in politics and Hollywood. And tell us a little bit about yourself, Mira, because you also speak multiple languages that I think Ankit will find very interesting.
Namaste. आप कैसे हो? Ankit? There's an Ankit. Ankit. Okay. Namaste. आप कैसे हो? अच्छे हो?
मैं बढ़िया हूँ, आप बताइए कैसे हैं आप?
ठीक ठाक है आपकी दुनिया में?
सब बढ़िया.
I said, how are you doing? And is everything well in your world?
Yeah.
In Hindi.
In Hindi, right? Yes, because we're obviously broadcast heavily into India and other countries, so it's good to have you here, Humira, and hopefully we'll be able to have more meetings in the future and do more work together on IBM TV. But with us today, we have a very special guest, Rick Rosner, who is one of the smartest guys in the world with one of the highest IQs ever. I've been following him for more than a decade now. On the panel, yeah. As a matter of fact, he's right down there. He's right down there, dude.
Oh wow! Hey.
Yeah, and he lives in California. Has a very interesting life. And
I want to know how many Facebook friends Humira has.
Me, I have probably over 1,000, maybe 1,500. I don't have too many. Like I don't have like 5,000 because I didn't want to really share a lot of I didn't want everybody to know about my personal stuff. But
Right.
now I've started to kind of I took a break. Actually, I've deactivated my page a couple of days ago just for some personal reasons, but I'm going to get back on and then I'll add more people. So, but as of now, probably around 1,500.
That's pretty impressive. But if you get to 5,000, then IBM can use your
Oh,
Facebook.
okay. Well, we're building up. This is a
is that
start.
what we do?
Well, one of your senior producers told me that, so I don't
Okay.
confirm or deny it, but
It must be
Okay.
true.
It must be true then, right? If one of the senior producers said
I
so.
heard it somewhere on the internet.
Got to be true. Yeah. And Rick, you seem to be personable for a guy who has a high IQ, and you're actually on Facebook because I think that's where we connect and stuff like that. So what gives here? Because a lot of the high IQ people, they live in rat holes that you keep talking about.
So I worked, as I said, I worked in bars for 25 years. I met 750,000 people working, being a doorman. And so I acquired the ability to at least, talk to people. But so it's because I had a desperate focus to get a girlfriend starting in, junior high. Where I think things are slightly better for people in school right now. In the 70s, there was this focus in movies and across the whole culture that it was everybody was exhausted after Watergate and Vietnam, and we had the pill, which kicked in the early 60s, and so the 70s was very hedonistic, very sexual time. And the message in a lot of media, and I certainly absorbed it, was that you want to lose your virginity by the time you're out of high school. And I wanted that. It didn't happen, but it pushed me to try to, become a normal person, whatever that is, and to acquire some social skills.
But Rick, that is why I tell kids to stay in school, because after my high school fiascos, college was a lifesaver for me. And so stay in school, kids.
Well, that's why I
feel for everybody under COVID, because half of school is the interacting with people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right. And the thing is,
is what you teach your kids and what media you allow them to interact with. Like you said, you felt like normal was losing your virginity before high school. And that was just peer pressure from media, from magazines. I know I read those same magazines. I don't know what age group you come from, but it sounds like you said the 60s and stuff. And that's my era. And I think when you look at what we influence and allowed to influence our children, that's the thing. You're allowing your basket to be filled up with bad apples, bad influencers. And you thought to be normal and to be accepted was this, when in reality, it probably wasn't. It's just what media was pushing. And so I think that's what's very important too. Also, watch the movie. I mean, it probably doesn't influence great, but Real Genius kind of explains a lot of what he's talking about. Again, that is one of my favorite movies. I knew Val Kilmer.
Do we have that on IBM TV? Is there a way we can monetize that?
I'll pull it up. I'll see if I.
Is there a way we can monetize that?
That's why Nick's here.
Is there a way we can monetize it? And get paid for it?
Of Real Genius is it focuses on this kid who's entering college at like 15 or 16 because he's brilliant, but socially, not brilliant, and how he finds a bunch of kindred spirits, a bunch of people who were considered freakish by the non-Caltech world. I think things are better in school now compared to when I was in school, in that via social media, you can build your own peer group, and you can also get access to more, my friends and I, we were all kind of desperate, and we all thought, we might die before ever getting a girlfriend. And if we'd had more access to information, we maybe would have calmed down, because we would have learned that, that almost anybody who wants to, get a partner gets one eventually. We were clueless.
Rick?
Yep.
Did you have like an older brother or like a cousin or somebody that was kind of mentoring you regarding like how to deal with
women? I desperately needed one. I'm the oldest of my, it was the 70s, so I have all these half siblings and step siblings because, my parents were, ping-ponging together and apart but I was the oldest of all of them, and I shouldn't have been, because I needed an older sibling to tell me what I was wearing was stupid, and to tell me, yeah, you may hate sports, but do sports anyway because it will, it'll get you friends. I didn't have that.
I can relate to you because I'm first generation American. My parents are from India. Growing up here, I didn't know anything. Like, I didn't even know how to shave my legs. I didn't know anything. And so I felt really awkward, and I didn't really come out of my shell until I went to college. My son, he's 17 years old, and I'm a single mother, and actually we live with my parents because they helped me raise him. And I feel like now I'm such, like, I know, like now I know what's going on in the world and how to socialize and how to connect with people and how to stand out. And I feel like I've been a positive influence on my son, and he's been like, I put all my attention on him, and I took him to his first concert, which was the rap concert. He listens to whatever music he wants with me, because I feel like these days he's going to listen to whatever he wants. At least I know what he's listening to. And like, I want to do things with him that he can enjoy doing with me, so we can, now he's at an age where I want him to see me as his mother, but also as someone he can confide in, come to for advice. So I understand how you feel like having someone who's older, who knows what's going on, because even my older sister was first generation, so she didn't know what was going on either.
Yeah, Humair, I can really relate to that because I didn't learn to shave my legs until I was 30. And, you know, but I want to get back to this point about this socialization and the peer pressure and all of that kind of stuff, because unlike, I scored about 100 points less than Rick on the IQ test, but I, as you can tell, had charm oozing out of me. So I had a very different experience. And when I was growing up, though, it was one of the things that the social awkwardness really affected me. And unlike Rick, I was unfortunately accelerated. So I was around when I was like a freshman in high school, I was with the sophomores. And when I was a sophomore in high school, I was with the juniors. And when I was a senior in high school, there was no one to be with except for the other guys who were accelerated, the other small handful of people. And so we took college courses. And so nowadays, when we have these high school reunions, we have all these announcements of people that have passed. And my friend and I will look at each other and go, did you know her? No. Do you know him? No. You know, so it was very awkward in a different way. Because, you know, I never felt like I was fitting in with anybody but that small handful of people. So this kind of peer pressure, this socialization, you always felt like you weren't fitting in. And so this is a hard problem for people if they're even if your gift is intelligence and mine was charm, you know, it's the same thing. You got a small group around you.
Well, except that people have, via social media, you can build your own peer groups now where you couldn't when I was a kid.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I have just a simple question, and this is both for you, Rick, and Humaira. It seems to me that with the impact of the internet, on the one hand, Rick, you're citing its ability to make the connections and build a support structure around those that are gifted. But doesn't that just accelerate in a different way hyper specialization, such that they're socialized with others and they develop a circle of friends, but they're hyper specialized? And don't we end up with the same kind of function, that is to say that people are in different silos and not connecting to each other for both of you?
I don't know. I mean, we see it in politics where I have my media bubble, you know, and people on the opposite side have their preferred media sources, and certainly people are well entrenched politically, and you know, self-select everything, and that's obviously terrible for society. When it comes to kids and specialization, I don't know. My kid she's a grad student, and she's very specialized. Sorry, the dogs are going to go crazy. My wife just walked in.
Okay.
But it's really opened, you know, her world in that she can make connections among people from, you know, dozens of universities, and it's turning out to be great for her that, you know, that she can have peers across the world and across anybody. She's friends with all these women in their 60s who are at the forefront of the field of women's needlework history.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just ask a quick question? A lot of people have mentioned music. when is music the big influencer? Is it the ages between the secondary school, so between 13 and 17? And then when does it transfer to be the media, as Kimberly said? Because music is a bigger influencer to the younger generation, isn't it?
Well, when I was a kid, there was a lot of talk and a lot of strife about the generation gap, where people my dad's age had no idea whatsoever about youth culture.
Don't trust anyone over 30.
Yeah, and it was there was a huge divide, and now that divide has been obliterated. Everybody knows who everybody is. Like, I know who Cardi B is, or Megan Thee Stallion. And I know the song they have that we can't even say the name of the song. And my wife and my daughter have this huge, strong bond that I think would have been, less likely in an earlier era, because we all can go, graze on the same cultural literacy.
Right. So,
Very interesting.
So would you say the internet has changed what your life is, or would change people's lives going forward, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, we're all part of the worldwide thought blob. And there's a writer, Cory Doctorow, who wrote a story about people who form tribes across the world, depending on when their preferred time to be awake is. It's like if you're a night person, you might form a tribe with people, 8,000 miles away, because they're awake at the same time you are. So yeah, and we can build our peer groups.
Yeah, so a lot different where when you were growing up, you're sort of isolated. In other words,
yeah, my best friend lived 4 blocks from me. My other best friend lived 10 blocks from me. And we bonded over walk. We each had a dog we considered embarrassing, and we bonded over walking our dogs together. That was somehow less embarrassing.
Yeah. But,
I think one way social media has changed the situation is, like, I know some people who I connect with on such a deep level. They live across the world. I've never even met them in person, but through social media, we've connected, and they're some of my best friends.
Well, Ankit and I are like best friends, and everybody on this IBM TV, none of us have met in person. We're from all over the world, except for Nick and I. But and we're all like best friends. We can reach out to each other whenever we need to talk to each other. So yes, the platforms have changed so that we can interconnect and maybe come in contact with the people that are more like us, and we're able to grow. I think one of the things that makes people like kind is your mindset and your missions and what you want to do, what you're passionate about. And those are the things that add into that. And whereas a brilliant mind like Rick and other people I know, they can't interact with a lot of people who are like-minded like themselves. They want to be normal, but I hate to say it, you're not normal, right? But you are in many ways, because you never stopped here. You are normal. You're not treated normal. I think that's the difference. I shouldn't have said you're not normal. You're not treated normal. But I think that if people said, hey, you're just as normal as all of us, you just have a mind that we want to tap into. We want to understand you, and we want to test you a lot. And that's not fun. But then you get tagged and labeled, and that label is what hurts everyone. If the minute you're labeled, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the minute you're labeled super smart at school, you're labeled, back then you were labeled a nerd, not going to be popular, and everybody wanted to tap into your smarts to help them smarter. Oh, I just want to use you to help me do my homework. And it's true. I mean, I learned real quick not to be smart. I learned real quick not to advertise.
One more shift in that when we were in school, there were not tech billionaires, but now there's Bill Gates, there's Zuckerberg, there's nerd chic, because that smart kid you're going to school with may be 20 years from now may be the world's first trillionaire. It's the whole culture has shifted, where supermodels go on talk shows and talk about how nerdy they were. It's
nerd chic. I like that.
Kimberly, spot on. And the problem is that we can't appreciate people's skills in certain areas when they're in school. All you hear at school is, you're good at reading, you're not good at writing, so practice the writing. No, it's totally the wrong way around. You're really good at reading, go and practice the reading. Because you become a news reader, you can become a reader of papers, etc. And then you can develop from there. Don't get me wrong, I know that people need to have a basis of writing, of reading, of all the different skills. But if somebody's really good at something, go and improve in that area. Don't say you're good at that, so we won't work on it. That's the area you should be working on, because that will improve your opportunities when you get out of school. And it really frustrates me, the school system. It really does, because we don't. And Rick, I would guess that when you were at school, you were held back in certain areas rather than improving on where your skills lie at.
Like with chess, I haven't played chess in probably 42 years because I lack the mental discipline. And I've always lacked the discipline to really buckle down. Like, I was a physics major, but at some point I just didn't like doing physics problems that took 3 hours to work through.
If they're taking you 3 hours, they're taking us 5 or 6 hours. So you can imagine we do it.
I looked. They had a picture of everybody who was a grad student in physics at my university, and none of them had hair. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. They all cooked all the hair off of their heads.
They smoked wood, right? The wood smoke burned right out of their head. I love it.
Well, you mentioned, Rick, earlier about keeping kids out of school, and I hated school and school hated me. And the best part of it for me was recess. And I think that's what the kids are missing, is to be able to socialize on the playgrounds. And because when you're in the classroom, you're told to sit still and be quiet. You're not socializing. You're not learning any social skills. But on recess, you can.
The kids
and that's a major problem for school now. 100 years ago, school was the most interesting part of a kid's life, because otherwise you were on a farm, looking at the back end of a mule. Now school is often the least information rich, because when you're not in school, you're looking at a personalized information feed, and that information is all delicious. It's all exactly what you want, because you've programmed it. So school, it's tough for school to compete.
Well, there's no uniqueness development in any educational program. It's all designed to make sure we learn equally. And that is very difficult. I know a few kids who were probably should have been ranked brilliant mind, and they literally would just drop out of school because it just wasn't the challenging aspect that they needed in their lives. And spoke with a lot of millionaires and billionaires. Like you said, geek became chic. And they had the same problem in school and in universities. And even though they did go, but they quit because they learned this is what they say. I learned what I needed to know and I'm gone.
What does our White House correspondent think of this?
Yes, Bill.
Well, I think this, to begin with, I am glad that I'm on IBM TV, and I'm humbled because I'm in a room with everybody that's a lot smarter than me, so I'm learning. But my question essentially is this for the panel. That don't we think now, given all of the undercurrents in society going on with the protests and with the economic crisis and the world generally, either woke or whatever it is, that we're re-examining how we approach education with our students, with with new programs and new approaches that perhaps fixes some of the things, Rick, that you were talking about in the past, and perhaps provides a safe area for kids, Jim, to socialize, given their multidimensional talents. I was wondering what the rest of the panel thought on that.
American higher education is in a crisis right now, besides COVID, in that a highly selective college costs $300,000 to get a 4-year degree at. And they only admit 5% of their applicants. When I was a kid, Harvard admitted 20% of its applicants because it was people only applied to like 4 schools. Now, you do computer apps and kids, especially super competitive kids will apply to 15 schools, which means each school gets 5 times as many applicants and they can only admit 5%. And that's on the one hand. On the other hand, people can get a decent free education by auditing classes online from these very same universities. And so everything's in flux, and
right.
in hope that 10 years from now, some new systems will have settled into place that address some of the craziness of college admission and college costs.
Yeah, but isn't that the opportunity that we have right now? Because everything is in flux, and
it's a reset.
Yeah, go ahead, Humira, please. Yeah. No, please. It's a reset, and you were going to say.
Yes. It's the dawn of a new era.
Yeah. So.
Well, I will tell you this, and my nieces live in San Francisco, and they had the pressure that Rick is describing about college applications at the high school level. They had to get into the right high school, and there was a lot of pressure on them at that age. And now, when I was growing up, there was no such pressure. I did not have to deal with that kind of pressure. The kids today have an enormous amount of pressure on them that I did not when I was growing up. And it was tough enough for me growing up. So, when we piled this kind of pressure on them, and a lot of the pressure is coming from the parents. So, Humira, you sound like a wonderful mom, but not every mom is wonderful. And they keep, in this sense, that they keep so much pressure on their kids to be performing at a very early age so they can get into the right high school, so they can get into the right college. So this is a very different, it's opportunities, sure, but there's also some downsides.
Yeah,
my son is actually right now applying to colleges. He's applying to around 20 colleges. He just was able to take the SAT for the first time. He's a senior now in high school. He was just able to take the SAT for the first time last Saturday because of the pandemic. And there's so much pressure. He's on the soccer team. He's president of the student council. He's like applying to like combined BS, MD program, all kinds of stuff. There's so much pressure. But then I want him to also have a social life. I want him to be happy and like be able to manage his time. And I think, I'm fortunate because I do live with my parents, and my dad's a psychiatrist. And so they're giving him all the wisdom, from different generations. And my parents also keep on him about studying and doing everything, but also my dad, because he's a psychiatrist, he knows that don't put too much pressure on the kid because you don't want them to like burn out or just lose interest. It's a balance.
I want to add a little bit to what you are saying, because I spent a lot of time in the schools watching the emphasis that they put on the children. And what I noticed was, again, a lot has to go into if you want to get into certain colleges. So the pressure, but what I noticed was it used to be just make a 4.0, you can go to college. But like you said, if it's getting into the right high school, because there were certain high schools in the area that were catered to certain educational skill sets that would get you into another level, then you wanted to make above a 4.0. Well, how far can you go? This is right. What I asked the school. When do you cap that and stop putting pressure on children to be that much better than the other person, and stop labeling them? Again, labels. Labels is what hurts all society. If we can erase labels, think how beautiful this place would be, right? So,
and as soon as we're born, we have labels. We're female, we're religion, we have ethnicity.
Yeah,
we're born with things that we don't even understand or why we were given that, and we might not know that it's not even who we are when we get older. And then you're labeled as you're not right to fit into society because you didn't accept your label. So I think first, if we could just eliminate that, which would take a long time to do, but that would be nice, right? To eliminate the labels. And then the other thing is stop putting the pressure on above 4.0. You're smart if you make a 4.0. You're smart if you make, you know what? I just know kids who couldn't test, right? They were very, very smart, could get through the book learning and the labs, but when you put a test in front of them, they blinded. But that didn't mean that they couldn't and do applicable work and weren't very, very smart and good at it or reliable. So another problem kids are being reliable. But listen to all the things that they have to do to now get into a university of their choice, or hopefully one that, and if they don't get into the one their choice, then that's pressure on top of it. Why not get into one that's going to skill set you right? You know?
Yeah, a 4.0 won't cut it anymore. You need about a 4.5 to be competitive. You take AP classes, and your son is obviously an excellent kid all around. The problem is that there are probably 12,000 excellent kids across the country, and another 12,000 just about as excellent, and they're all applying to these selective colleges who have freshman classes that only hold 1,600 students. So your odds of getting into any one of these, like Ivy colleges plus Stanford, are 5%. So every excellent kid applies to like 6 Ivies.
And they're a failure if they don't get in.
Right.
What a horrific pressure when almost any college and university institution offers brilliant training. It's up at that point, to me, it's up to the student what they learn and gain and carry on with them. And, they've got good teachers and stuff, but I also think when you've reached that plateau, it's up to you. But I think all that 4-point yada. But here's the other thing that they have to do. They have to do an extracurricular activity. And a lot of times that extracurricular activity is so positive that by the time they get to university, there's no room for them. So then the kids get smart and they go, oh, well, if you play volleyball, you can get in. Or if you play rowing is the least, favorite to the students. But if you're doing rowing and you get into the row club, you're going to get accepted to one of the good schools. So, and rowing is hard. I'm going to tell you what is probably boring and hard. But these are the things, unfortunately, if you want to get, but hear me out on this. You can take any college education and what you can apply to it is amazing. And I know a parent got really, really mad at me, very affluent family. Their child was suffering a lot of pressure, peer pressure from siblings and other kids. I have to do this and I have to make it this. And I go, why not make it easier, even though your parents are going to shoot me for saying this, but you don't need to go to an Ivy school. You're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. Why not go to a local university or community college, build your skill sets in a community college, which is less pressure, less money. That's not their problem, but certainly less pressure, and then leap into the university, right?
California was set up with this system that you save money by your first 2 years. You take care of your general ed requirements at a community college.
Yeah.
And then 2 years at UCLA, and you've got half the debt.
And it was great.
And here's another one in North Carolina, because we're such a very, very poverty state. They set up a program for certain students, if they were willing to apply themselves, that when they reached their second year in high school, they could take a college shift high school program. So when they graduated from high school, they graduated with a full year, maybe a full year and a half college credit. So then they can enter university with all of that already out. And it wasn't the extracurricular, the special classes, the special ed classes, the whatever you call them, the smart classes. They just had to take what they called university crossover. And they actually went to the university in their local area a few times a week to get those credits. But these were kids who were willing. Their parents were willing. They knew the kids were smart enough and would not get a college education otherwise. So these are things that can be done. But again, we got to strip the labels. We got to make the kids feel accepted for who and what they are. I don't know. I'm reaching.
Ben, I despise the education system, not the education system, but the way it's been built up recently. You're dealing with an outdated system, and as many things in politics, and it is political, what they do is they just patch over what's wrong with the education system. Rather than resetting and restarting, they patch things over and never actually deal with the problem itself. The problem is, of course, and Kimberly, spot on, it's pressure. And of course, what is the pressure for? A lot of the students these days don't actually know what they're going to go into. So they're being pressured for things that they don't want to do, rather than discovering what they're going to enjoy. And of course, if you enjoy something, you learn more. So what we're doing now is we're saying, oh, you've got to do this, you've got to do that to become. Those days have gone. We're now such a country where we are moving so fast, and we actually don't know what. And I heard a quote from the Zero Accountancy Software MD in the UK the other day. We're now dealing with things that we should have been dealing with in 2030. They're going to be here in the next 18 months. So what actually? So why are we going to education and learning for things that are going to be outdated very quickly? Because it's like Kimberly says, it's pressure. You've got to do this because it's the way it's built. But and I think we're at the ideal time now where we need to totally reset education, have a total rethink, and start from the bottom up and say, right, you go to school for the first 2 years, you go and enjoy it, you go and do the subjects that you want to enjoy, you make it fun. But we can't do that because the SAT situation has come in now, and we want to be doing exams for kids that are 7. Come on, that's not right. That's not right. That's not fair.
Yeah, you guys are in a mess over there with your A levels because of COVID. That nobody in England can take the tests that place you, and now you've had like some kind of guessing scandal where like teachers are expected to just kind of estimate how the kids would do on these tests they can't even take.
Because it's instant gratification, Rick. It's the fact that we need to know the A-level results now, rather than waiting 6 months, 9 months, rather than sitting there and saying, right, we understand it's been a difficult time. Go and learn the world for 6 months. Come back, do your A-level exams.
Exactly.
And that's if you still want to sit them.
Yeah, there's all sorts of craziness over here that kids can't, spend 6 months not being in school, not learning. And right. It's like, exactly. Really? What, that seems better to get things squared up. Well, I'm a liberal and I'm in a liberal state. So I'm going to say, stay locked down while, my buddy Adam Carolla says we're all pussies for staying locked.
But Rick, I'll tell you a little example from my life.
Smart people wear superhero masks.
People it's easy, folks.
Yeah, I double mask. I put a mask over my mask to.
Yeah.
Superhero.
Ultra protection. But when I was in I think it was junior high, I think, and there was a kid that was in my neighborhood who was flunking English. And so, before a half hour before the bus came, I would go over to his house to help him study to pass the English test. And I went into a home that had no books. His parents didn't read. He hadn't read. He had no training. My house was filled with books. My parents were teachers. And so, I just got this wake-up call. Well, wow, my life is very different from his life. And if you fast forward and you say, okay, why don't these kids get online education? Well, they wouldn't have had a computer in their life. They wouldn't have had internet access in their life. They wouldn't have had opportunities that I had, that I took for granted, that I expected everyone to have. And it was shocking to find out that no, he never had the chance to read books because there were no books in his house.
In today's LA Times said that 40% of the Latino kids in our state don't have internet access.
Right.
And, why not do like what Ben was talking about? And of course, I love this because Ben has 2 children, and we've got Humera who has a young child. Why not take these children's expertise and really focus on those rather than punishing them, making them study things but make sure they learn them. But don't make those their emphasis, right? I just think that we're resetting now. But let me tell you my biggest fear with this shutdown. And, Rick, you mentioned it as well, is that the kids aren't going to school, so they're not learning. That's not my biggest fear. I think kids can go online and learn, and parents will teach most, but they're not getting any exercise. They're all doing this.
Yes.
They're all doing this. They will sit and watch TV for 12 hours a day and go to bed, sit and watch TV. This is what a kid will naturally do.
My fingers, because I swipe left a lot. So I got
So you're going to need one of those patches for your fingers. But
Yeah, I don't know how much exercise anybody's getting. I bet you the country as a whole has probably gained about 3 billion pounds.
and that's obesity was a problem before COVID. Even though I exercise every day, my doctors were shocked at me the other day that I put on weight, and they know I'm disciplined, right? I am severely disciplined, because if I don't, I can't walk. I will not walk. And if I put on too much weight, I may not be able to use my arms and walk. So I have extreme influence to get out there. But kids who don't, they're going to sit there and get fatter. Excuse me, it's the truth. Obese. Health is going to
self-esteem will go down.
Immunity goes down, as Dr.
Absolutely.
Stu and Dr. Tula teaches us these two things. And Dr. Arthur is very concerned about this, but they're not exercising. They're all staying indoors. They're all staring at a screen for at least 8 hours a day.
Eating.
That's my concern. And no one. So while they're staring at their screen for school, somebody should be every hour making them stand up and do the jumping jacks, move their punch the air, right? Squats, all the things that develop your muscle and your cardiovascular, your respiratory. They should make them breathe in deep. One of the big things that we should be doing during COVID, breathe in deep and hold your breath to expand your lungs to its fullest. Did you know that in a hyperbaric chamber where your lungs will expand, COVID cannot attach? It slides off. So we need to be teaching our kids, breathe deep. Now I know that Ben's taking his kids out and they're going through wood hikes. Ben's taking advantage of this, right? He's taking his kids out. They're learning about nature. But not every kid's getting this, and this is my concern. Ben, you're one of the.
There's another factor here, and that's the smoke in the air now because of the California wildfires, which were caused by lightning strikes. So I used to get 10,000 steps a day. I'm getting 7,000 now because the air quality is not healthy.
But how do we convert this so that the kid? I'm thinking with all of this online school. Every hour, the teacher needs to make the kids exercise.
Well, there's just no talk about this. You're the first person I've heard bringing this up.
Because I'm smart. No,
maybe an online gym class.
I won't discuss my IQ test, but after I was tested, I decided I didn't want anyone to talk to me. No. But the thing is these are things we should be concerned about. My problem is I'm old. I've already seen all the problems that we can have. Okay, what we're doing is replaying history from people. Okay, we're replaying a lot of history. The thing is that we are going to put ourselves into a position that somebody can come in, they can take over. Hitler can come in and wipe us out in a heartbeat. If Hitler existed right now, he could literally come in and take us out.
Because we're not exercising, or because our brains are stuck in
all of the above. Okay, all of
Bill,
the above.
did you have something to say after Hitler?
I'm supposed to get beamed out every time I say the word Hitler. So
there's the thing on Twitter that the first person to bring up Hitler.
But I think that we've set ourselves up.
Well, I read somewhere that Hitler put so much fluoride in the water that it calcified the pineal gland, which is the connection to God, some believe. And so the connection was lost. So people
she's
were
probably
more
right. It was the Kool-Aid.
I don't think we can.
Right. But Bill, you had something to say.
No. I mean, I'm just stunned. I guess just to put it all in context, and I'm certainly appreciative of your concerns and observations, Kimberly. But I think that I don't think that we here in the United States are necessarily at that stage. I mean, we are in a stage where we're witnessing, let's just say, some bad decisions and maybe some over groupthink, or as Rick describes, the worldwide, what was it, throb, Rick?
A thought blob.
Thought blob. I mean, see? And so I do think that some of that's true, but I do think that there's enough of us out here that are willing to say that, enough is enough. And certainly some of this is caused by the current administration and our kind of rush downward intellectually in terms of, I know you're shocked, Jim, just shocked that there's gambling in the society. But,
I'm okay with.
but it's this intellectual race to the bottom. And just to kind of tie in what it seems is the theme of the panel discussion so far, it's that one, we at least understand that we have to reimagine how we go about our educational system. And now it's more holistic. It includes, either exercise, spirituality, and then enabling even those with other skills so that they can come in and we can create an environment that is dynamic and multi-ability strewn. But I think now that since we understand that that's the need, the question really is, how do we go about getting it done? I suspect some of this uncertainty that the world is going through right now will be, substantially over. There's going to be more craziness in 60 some odd days, because right now we're in a funny season and this is just like the middle of the storm. But I hope and I have faith that reasonable minds, in fact, will prevail in the end. And then we still will have to do the hard work of re-engineering and listening to the ideas and the experiences of Ben and Rick and Tamara, and to avoid the experiences that Jim and Rick and I may have had back in the days before Yondu. Okay, and Kevin, I always think of you as just timeless, and so I know that you've had
thank you.
Yes.
Tip of my hat to you.
I was a geek as well. Sasha is in the house all the way from Canada. Sasha with love.
Hello, everybody.
Actually from Russia, but lives in Canada. Sasha, welcome. How are you doing today?
Very good. If you listen to our yesterday's investment show, and we discussed several possibilities. Finally, the market breaks down big time. The Dow is down 2.5%. The Russell is also about 2.25%. Nasdaq is 4%, so on. So the market is breaking down. Okay, that's maybe for some people it's not such a good news. Very good news for me though. And yeah, I was for a long time, and I think the Dow will drop another 15,000 points. And, I'll celebrate big time. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I've heard a little bit about education discussion. Okay, if person wants to be a doctor, a lawyer, and a dentist, okay, these three professions, nothing more, nothing less, they must go to school. And if they will not make it to school, they will not become doctors, lawyers, or dentists. That's the end of story. Very simple.
Very simple.
Black and white situation.
I agree.
Now, nobody will fight me on that one. Okay.
No argument.
Yeah, all the rest of the stuff. Some people want to go to study business administration. Some people want to study some marketing, something else. You know what? 25, 30 years ago, it was a good economical proposition. Okay, you'll spend a couple of $100,000 to attend the school, but then you will land a job that will pay you a beginning salary, say $100,000, and you will make that up all this money that you spent in 2-3 years, and then your life is all up in roses, and you're making $250,000 being employed by one of these big companies, and it's nice, and you have a nice house, wife, maybe even 2 cars, anything what you want. But you know what? It just doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't work. Yes, you will spend $300,000-$400,000 to obtain the great education or so-called great education. But then what's next? flipping hamburgers, living with your parents until you're 45 or maybe 55. What is there for you with all your education? Now you can educate yourself pretty well in any subject today, what you want. Okay, take myself, history. I know history better than 5 history professors put together. Why? Because I love history, I'm interested, and I read a lot of material, books, essays, and so on. This is why, because I'm interested. So when people say that they want to go to school to study and they don't know what they want to study yet, they will find it out later. To work. Forget about education. Go and start working. And then maybe you'll find out what you would like to learn, and maybe you will. But if not, you don't need to go to university, school, colleges, anywhere.
Well, doesn't that raise, Rick, your issue of the quote unquote, you need the credential? I mean, I know we were talking about it earlier within the context of the IQ societies, but Sasha's just saying, hey, just go out there and learn in the world and pursue your passions. And well, that. But at some point, you're going to need a credential, don't you, Rick?
Well, there's the MBA model where a lot of B schools want you to have finished your undergrad and then worked for a couple of years to see what the world of work is like before you get your MBA. So I like some kind of voucher system or some kind of system where if you think you're ready for further education, fine. But otherwise, you know, you can take a couple of years and pursue something and then come back. Yeah.
I agree.
Let me just jump in real quick. One of the things that I would add is that there was a time that we had vocational schools within the school system, and they were definitely teaching a lot of the skills that are very valuable to even having some successful jobs. Sasha was talking about being a doctor, being an engineer. Well, you know, I remember a time when you could go to school, and within the school system, you could learn about plumbing, you could learn about auto mechanics, you could learn about a number of things. And Rick, I was watching you from offline and not being in the conversation. So I know that you work at a bar, and you know also that what I know, a number of these folks are making more money than the doctors and the lawyers. So us getting away from vocational learning has really hurt us in that sense. So I really would like the school system to actually get back to engage in some of those kind of courses. I know I was on a Zoom call yesterday on another matter, and they were talking about the fact that they remember going to school and being able to learn, either school or arts councils or community groups, and be able to learn skills like glass making and pottery and things of that nature. Now, those may not be things that are going to make you lots of money, but there are things that you can use to make a little bit of change here and there. And plus, they can also just help you save some money, because I remember also being able to get those glass blowing kits and things of that nature and being able to make my own glasses and not necessarily going to Kmart or Walmart or whatever the stores are that people are buying these things at. So I'm actually a proponent of us trying to get back into having some of that in the school system as well.
Yeah, it all got squeezed out because the school systems are broke.
Well, they're not just broke. We don't, they're broke because we don't allow the government to invest in the schools, because the government invests in other things, which I just read about yesterday. I forgot I read this article a year ago and it came back to me. And all the money that the government's been investing in drugs and medications in the past, since 2010, they've invested a lot of money in research and I'm sitting here going, our government did? So I revisited this article last night, an article I read a year ago. So instead of investing in our future, they're investing in drugs and medications. And I'm kind of leery about what's getting ready to happen, because one of the drugs that they were researching and doing trials on people, they're going to launch in 2021. The FDA is going to approve. And guess what it does? It protects your upper respiratory system from viruses.
Oh wow.
They started this development back in and did the first human trials. They did the first human trials in 2012. So these are things that we need to be looking at. But instead of investing in our future, which is our children, for whatever reason, they're investing in drugs and medications that other companies should have been investing in. This is pharmaceutical world. I don't know why our government was investing in this. But these are the questions we need to be. The thing I tell people, though, we've let the government run us too long. We've let them make the decisions. We're not, no offense, Ben, but we're not the UK. Truly, our government should be the people. And they do what we tell them to do. But somehow or another, this turned around. And we got lazy. And we got fat. Okay? We're the kids who are sitting and watching TV and not getting out and exercising. And this is what happens when you allow that. And we need to get back involved. We, the people, need to be running the government. We need to tell them what we want from them. It's just like I tell the employees when I own a company by myself and my employees come to me, they think, and I tell them, no, I work for you. You tell me what you need to get your job done. And guess what? You get your job done and I'm happy. But that's how we do things. I actually work for my people. I also work for my clients, right? But that's the way the government should have been. But somehow or another, now they become king or queen and we worship them. And that's not what the U.S. was built for.
Well, part of the problem, part of it is the technology is moving faster than our ability to incorporate technology. It took 10 years for us to learn how to use cell phones in public without being jerks about it. And Ben was talking about how schools need a whole new rethink, but there's no time because everything's happening so fast. COVID plus Trump. I talk about them being kind of the little end of the world before the big end of the world, which is the coming tech apocalypse where things just happen so fast that all social norms will be kind of washed away under this wave after wave of tech. And there's no time for us to get used to any of it and to figure out what the best overall policy might be.
So I agree with you in many, many ways. That's a good opening statement that I kind of use. You have the right to remain silent. Anything that is said here during this conference will be obsolete by the time you leave today, right? Because I work in cybersecurity for years. But I will shock you just a little bit because of my background. The things we built back in 1993, the technology is just now starting to use. So the items that we not only just researched and was just sitting there waiting, we literally built, deployed more than beta, but the government said, you know what, it's too soon for this. We don't want this right now. So a lot of things, so they're like fiber. We built and deployed it and it was working and it still runs back in 1993. We're just now starting to use it. So there are some things technology is coming out with, but we developed so soon they didn't know what to do. Quantum computers. The board of computer science at NC State, IBM gave to NC State the right to use their quantum computer, but nobody knows really how to use it. We have it. They still don't even think, I think they still don't even know why they created it. It's supposed to think faster, better, more efficient. But again, to me, technology and computers, especially in artificial intelligence, is only as smart as the people who built it and program and input into it. Oh dear, we got a big face. Ooh. But I agree with you. And I love the way you verbed the fact that we didn't even know how to use these politely for 10 years. I mean, I would go up into the great room where the kids were, and they were all on their phone. And I go, why aren't you guys talking to each other? You don't get to see each other, but once a year. Why aren't you guys out in the playhouse or doing something? And they go, oh, we are. We're We're talking to each other. They're sitting next to each other on the phone with each other.
Yeah,
So,
one of
I agree with you,
people
Rick.
are having, especially young people, the amount of sex people are having is down because so much of the rest in the 70s, when I grew up and there was this emphasis on sex, everything else sucked. The food sucked, TV sucked, you know, but now people are less interested in sex because there's so much more awesomeness. Movies are great, TV is great, video games are great. Everything's we're, you know, we live in a world of awesome entertainment so people are overwhelmed.
So now it's normal to be into entertainment instead of trying to build up your body and make yourself look cool.
Yeah, look at it. I go out and I see, well, people of all ages, but you know, I'll see, like, you know, young couples. I'm like, if this were the 70s, this wouldn't be happening with you guys because you guys are chunky. And you know, in the 70s were, people were ridiculously skinny. It was the era of nobody had butts in media. If you, like the old Battle of the Network Stars, where they had, you know, people from the big three networks doing like Olympic style events. It was an era where everybody was jogging or on cocaine and zero butts on anybody. Now we live in the butt era.
Yeah, but part of that is also the fast food that we eat. It's also the fast food that we eat and all of that, because there's too much fast food. Folks are going out. I know I'm guilty of that, just like several other folks that are friends of mine. I will say one thing to Kim and everything. I'm actually a little bit more optimistic about our kids and everything in terms of their exercise, because I think that they're more resilient than we're giving them credit for. Because I've traveled out with a friend of mine that does one of our food delivery services and things of that nature. So she's not helping any, because she's actually going out and delivering for these people that want to be lazy and not go to these restaurants. But while I'm out there helping her, I've actually noticed quite a few folks that were kids. They were out there riding their bicycles. They were out there playing soccer. They were out there doing what kids will do. So I think that if we let kids do what they are interested in doing, they will go out there and get exercise. Now, we need to kind of like fine tune it and direct that exercise and make sure that it's done in a correct way? Then yes, I would agree with that, because that's actually what happens in school, is that sometimes the kind of natural play isn't always going to get you the kind of weight loss and other things that we need. So it does need to be kind of fine-tuned, but kids are just resilient, and I think that they will go out and play. Even in the apartment complex that I live in now, I see kids over there at the swimming pool and other things. So I do think the kids are more resilient than we're giving them credit for.
Well, I agree and disagree in many ways, because kids will be as lazy as you allow them to. So fortunately, there are some parents who are saying, yeah, go out, ride your bike, play basketball. But you're seeing, so do you know how many kids are in the school buildings? If you're seeing a handful of kids out playing ball and soccer, that's not all the kids that are. I got 2 schools, okay? And actually there's 6 on our streets. They should rename our street. There are literally 6 schools were built on our street, because we were shack town at one time, and all this land was out here, and it was garden land. And so it was easier to turn farmland into all of these schools. We have a magnet school. We have an elementary school. We have a private school. We have a public school. I mean, it's insane. But what you're looking at, and I say the same thing, thank God I see these kids out here playing basketball, but it's 5 or 10. I know that school holds 1,500. I know the school across the street from me holds 2,000. I know the school down the street from me holds, 1,000 or more. And then the magnet school, I know they won't give that one. They treat it like a private school. But you're looking at a handful of kids versus thousands. And I know for a fact, majority of them are doing this because they can, because they don't have to go out. So I'm concerned about those, because this is what happens. And the reason why I'm concerned is how many of you know who Phil Ford is?
Mm-hmm. I know what Phil Ford is.
You know Phil Ford? I know Phil Ford. He sits on one of my boards.
Yeah.
Phil
Former
Ford,
Carolina great. Former
right?
UNC
North
great. And
Carolina
also
basketball
played
great.
in the NBA.
Right, and he not only did that, but he went to the Olympics.
Yes.
Okay, and won the gold. So, but he started a program at UNC Chapel Hill. He was popular before Michael Jordan. Okay, he was famous before Michael Jordan, and his concern is obesity in children. And it's like he said, there's just far too many who are not being encouraged, and that was his concern. So I agree with him. It's not the few that go out and are encouraged to play sports. It's those who are not, and there's a lot of them. And I just think, and I don't know, as a genius or real, I call you brilliant minds. Were you encouraged to go out and exercise?
Yeah, but I was terrible at it.
Exactly.
But though I that's why I needed an older sibling to say, yeah, you're going to suck at it, but you got to stick with it. But my dad tried to get me to do judo. Went once, hated it. You just need the proper guidance. And when it comes to obesity, that's the triumph of food science.
Right.
The food now is just so delicious. Anytime you have 2/3 of a population that's overweight, it's not personal failings that's making people overweight. It's that food is fairly cheap, and it's freaking the best thing you've ever put in your mouth.
That's real true.
In the 1940s, food in the first half of the 20th century was just grotesque. It was so terrible. In the Depression, Eleanor Roosevelt was directed people to make depression casseroles that were terrible on purpose because people didn't have the money to eat more.
Right.
They didn't crave the food.
They didn't.
So people around the world want to be poor in the United States because the poor in the United States are fat and they don't have food to eat, so they're skinny.
And there's also that whole thing about the food desert and where the fast food restaurants are, where the convenience stores are that are usually some very bad food, the very sugary foods, and a lot of times they're in those neighborhoods that are poor. So a lot of times that's done intentionally, and that's also an issue that goes on. Rick, I've got good news for you. I also was bad at the sport that I went in. I was a track runner, but I learned something that I'm still using here on this network. I learned networking at that time because that's where I got my first networking going on, because I started like connecting the great players that were on, say, our football team and other things. So I recruited them to be on my track team. So that's why the coach let me stay on the team, because I think I finished dead last just about every race that I ran. So I was really bad at running, but he liked me being on the track team because I was a good recruiter.
Let me get in here. Let me get in.
Go ahead.
I'm in pretty good shape.
I want to know.
I went back to 8th grade. I would dominate.
Guys, let's listen to Ben from the UK, because you must have been a great athlete, Ben. Come on.
I played I have been involved in football and cricket at a good level, semi-professional. Played against Test match players. But that's because we had, and it's back to education. We had fields we could go. We are being interrupted by the dog. We had fields we could go and play in a comfort with all our friends, etc. That's gone now in the UK. And also, I just want to come back to a point Sasha made earlier. Sasha, you're right. The lawyers, the dentists, the doctors do need education. But isn't it sad that some people won't have the right education, even if they do attend to get them qualifications? And it's generally down to because we've lost the flair in the teaching industry, because unfortunately now the flair teachers are not allowed to do what they're good at, which encourages kids to be creative, because they have to follow the system that is flawed.
Absolutely agree with you. All the system of higher education in the United States is a huge, big fraud, in my opinion, simply because if before 20, 30 years ago or so, that was a guarantee of getting well-paid job, a respect in society, and many other things. Okay, you do this and we do that. That's no longer in place. There is no longer anybody's obligation to provide you with a good paying job. So you got high diploma, you got a PhD, you got, it doesn't matter what you got. Where is a job that you can land? So that's a big question. Therefore, and I just repeat myself, unless you are set up to be, and it's kind of, it's a burning desire. You cannot live normal life without being a doctor, a dentist, lawyer. Okay, you'll die if you are not going to become one of those, right? Okay, then you go through the hoops, spend $1 million on your education, and do whatever you can to get there. Okay, and hopefully you'll be successful. God bless you. But all other stuff, it just, you're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for what? For inferior education, to mingle with the idiots who are going to the school just there to have a good time. They have no desire to learn anything or so on. What a waste of time, energy, talent, when you can do something what you really passionate about it. Find the passion. Without passion, you are nobody. I don't care about your education. I don't care what you are, who you are. It's nothing. The passion is number one. In history of the world, the passion won the wars. The passionate people were beating other countries which were much stronger and better financed and had better artillery or whatever. But the passionate people, they were winning, okay? Now, speaking about physical education, what I wanted to add, when I was a kid, of course, I was in Russia, in Soviet Union. We didn't have a formal physical education, but I had a passion for soccer or football, like it's called in Russia. And I played every day for 5 hours. You know what? I was not a good student. I mean, I had very good marks, but I was not a good student in the sense that I was missing a lot of school. And why I was missing school? Because I wanted to play soccer. And I was playing that, like school would start 9 in the morning. I started to play soccer at 9 in the morning. And I was playing for 5 hours until 2 o'clock. That was my passion. Now, about the kids in Russia, by the way, the division was very simple. There are those who love Beatles and those who don't like Beatles. And there was like today, Republican Democrats in America, that was in Russia, teenagers, those who love Beatles and those who don't love Beatles. I was in the first group who love Beatles and still do.
You've just go ahead, man. Yeah,
sorry. You've just summed it up though, Sasha. Again, you were good at soccer, you practice it, you weren't encouraged to practice it, and this is the problem. If you're good at it, you're passionate about it, be encouraged to go and do it. This is exactly the problem we've got at the moment, and it's down to lazy parenting, in my eyes, a lot of it. A lot of it's down to lazy parenting because it's easier for them to put it in the hands of somebody else.
Yeah, that's real true. That's right. Sasha, I just had a quick question for you, though, and everything, because the way I was always taught about Russia and everything was that I think that wasn't physical exercise or like exercise in general almost like required, because I think that the way that I was always taught in school was that there were certain courses in Russia that were required in your school system, and I thought that something to do with physical exercise or sports was required. Now, if that's a mistake or something that I learned incorrectly, please correct me, but that's what I was told. And I know here in the United States, we were having some of our schools that would have public physical exercise as one of their requirements, but then they kind of got away from that. But was that the case in Russia, or did I mislearn that?
Okay, there was a case in Russia. I cannot generalize it because I was attending a special school for gifted children in Odessa, which is part of Ukraine, as you know. And our system in physical education, it was that you cannot play sports that can harm your hands. For example, basketball is out, volleyball is out, soccer is in, table tennis, ping pong is in, because it will not harm you, as we know. So it was kind of a very specialized system. And I don't know, maybe other schools had something else, possibly, because we had 2 classes a week for physical education. Yeah, so it is part of school system and probably still is. In Russia, I'm not aware of it. But in my case, it was very specialized situation.
Okay. That's what I thought I heard and everything.
Hang on. I'd like to know, Bill, you're the White House correspondent. Is there anything going on in the White House about, or the administration about education in our school systems? Is there any pressure, any politician that stands for that? I know Michelle Obama, when she was first lady, had a big thing about fitness and food and growing your own food and all of that kind of stuff. Are we getting any kind of play in that area?
Well, actually, there's I guess you could say a fight for the future of the schools. You're absolutely correct. The former First Lady did emphasize getting fit, and that's always been a theme emanating from the White House. But under the current administration, there has been a lack of leadership and a de-emphasis. And, you know, while we don't know specifically why, it could be that the general tone of this administration in terms of their views against the prior administration. But no, there's not been an emphasis on physical education in today's educational system. Rather, the fight has moved over to school choice rather than school reform. So the current administration has viewed essentially, and it's actually, now that I think about it, quite interesting that you could honestly say that they are about defunding the public school system by moving everything over to what they call school choice, which is essentially a voucher program to allow people self-select, which would draw taxpayer monies out of the shared pool that supports our public school system into select schools, and therefore use the ability to use the vouchers in private schools, which of course would eliminate those individuals that couldn't make up the difference. If they took their voucher, went to a private school, there'd still be a gap with the overall tuition. And while the affluent families could make up that difference while taking their property tax money with them, they would leave the public school system poor. So that's the current fight, and it's been a regression, quite frankly. We made tremendous strides under both Republican and Democratic administrations, all the way up until this administration. So the real fight currently in the school system is not over physical education. And yet what is curious, and what's clear from this panel discussion so far, is that there is a real need and a critical well, we're at a critical point when in this educational system, when we fundamentally are going to decide how the next generation is going to, 1, learn, 2, be socialized, 3, and what they're going to value. And I was struck by, Ben, your points that what we have to teach our kids are just not values amongst ourselves, but the values of the outside world and finding yourself and being comfortable with yourself and being happy. So in that regard, it seems sometimes that within the larger context, we get sidetracked with red herrings about, well, are you going to PE class, or are you reading the Bible, or are you saluting the flag, or all this other stuff, when the real fundamental thing is that I really believe that we are in the midst of a worldwide societal shift in the way we're thinking, which is the kind of structural shift that we're going to need in order to deal with the larger problems. And, you know, I just want to add this small observation, and that is simply this. I remember, well, 2. First is a bit of a funny. I hope you guys it'll resonate. I remember when I was younger, say in my 20s, I used to wake up every day and I think, wow, how am I going to change the world today, right? Well, now I wake up and I'm, 52, and I wake up and I think, can I change even my own diet? Like, can I eat more fiber? Can I go to fruits and vegetables and make sure I take my multivitamin? Now, I say that facetiously, although it is kind of true, but the point here is that time is fleeting.
Yep.
And in the 20 years that have passed, at least in my development, the next generation is going to be in charge in the blink of an eye. And so if we don't start to attack this problem holistically, incorporating everything that everyone has talked about, individuals excelling at their abilities, an emphasis on the larger values, a kind of fundamental shift and change in the way we look about things, in a blink of an eye, the kids today, your kids, Ben, and I love the photos from your vacation, by the way. They keep that. You don't mean the kids, right? You mean the photos.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to be running the world, and we just have to understand that in the blink of an eye. I'm gonna, be hanging out on the front porch in a rocking chair.
And Bill, we've got to get out of the California and North Carolina mentality for a while. Is this because we know what the problems in the United States are, how we've shifted away from the basics?
Right.
And is this a global phenomenon, do you think, or is it just because I'm here and I see it in California?
Well, actually, Jim, you raised an excellent point on that, and I don't know how much of focus people have or attention they've paid, but I'm really amazed with the cultural transitions and changes that have gone on in India, with the change from the caste system and how they are moving. Because once you begin to change systemic structures, which they're doing in India, a nation of over 1 billion people, and their emphasis on educating, particularly women and girls, because studies have repeatedly proven throughout the world that if you educate a girl and you give her an education, the whole community rises. And for whatever reason, but you've seen that emphasis in Africa, and you've seen it with major celebrities. But I do think that it's a fundamental structural change. And I'm most amazed because when you talk about the world's largest democracy, if they're able to move from the caste system, highly structured, and to removing that and then changing the labels and providing for upward mobility, they are unleashing the energy and the talents of 1 billion people. And that is amazing. And there's going to be a time when that is going to wash over the rest of the world. For our part, for the rest of the world, we're making those changes as well. But I would point to that as a singular moment that a lot of people have overlooked. It's like throwing a stone into the river and then watching the ripples go. And then I believe it was Robert F. Kennedy says that a ripple will eventually turn into a wave. Now, to me, that here in the United States, we have the opportunity to be at the leading edge of this structural change in education and lead it. But right now, we're confused as a nation about where we want to go. Hopefully, in 61 days, we'll know where we are going. But Jim, I think you're absolutely correct that there is a fundamental shift, and right now it's being led by us. And remember, in 20 years, the kids that are playing on video games now and that are playing chess and that are maybe playing out in the field, they're going to be running the country. And so it's important that we focus in on that now. And I just want to raise one more question, if I may.
Of course.
Isn't there a proposal on the ballot in California to reverse Prop 13?
Yes. And it's been up and down all the...
Okay, but hang on. Not very many people know what Prop 13 is. Tell us briefly what Prop 13 is.
Can you explain this to the viewers? Because I'm going to tell you right now, half the viewers are not going to understand this.
And what the impact is with the proposal. But go ahead, Jim.
Well, the property, basically Prop 13, the Jarvis anti-tax kind of political movement said that even if your property values go up, as long as you own the home, you're still paying the property taxes that you paid when you bought the home. So even though my house was worth X amount of dollars when I bought it, I paid those property taxes. The value of my house has gone skyrocketing. I still paid the old property taxes, and it discourages me from moving because then I would pay property taxes on at the new level, the higher purchase price of the new property. And so this whole thing has starved the government of California of money that it needed to do things like invest in their schools. So there's been a backlash, and many ballot amendments have been offered to reverse this and to say, hey, pay your fair share of property taxes if this is the value of your home. And if you do, you might be encouraged to move and open up this house for someone else to move into. And they have been defeated up to now every single time. So this is a very interesting time because now there's more support for getting rid of Prop 13 than there has been in the past, but it's still, who knows?
And wouldn't that result in more of an investment in the public school system in the state of California?
Absolutely, it would. And that's why people like me who have these property taxes, it would hurt me, but I'm all for it.
And wouldn't that then fund the kind of change that the rest of the panel has been talking about earlier today?
Absolutely. And if we started to stop thinking about our narrow self-interest and think about our enlightened self-interest, which would include the schools around us where our kids go to, then we would make different choices when we vote.
You know, I'm looking at this two ways, but go ahead. Who was speaking?
Can I just come back to Bill?
Go ahead, Ben.
Can I just come back to Bill on a point very quickly? Bill, when you sat in your rocking chair, the problem is that you're forgotten and your experience isn't used. And that's the problem that we have, is that we are too quick to put people out to grass. You might have the greatest rocking chair in the world, Bill, but we still need your experience to talk to people and to guide others through it.
Well, and
I had a question for Ben real quick. I had a quick question for Ben.
I know, but I want to say something on this law.
Yeah.
And we'll let you do that. But I want to say something on this law because I think it was a twofold situation, and where they made the mistake is they could have diversified and spread the interest rate a little bit better so that it wasn't so heavy on new home buyers, right? But I think it was intended to help those who retired so that they did not have to worry about coming up with all of this extra money, because some people were losing their homes. Okay. They spent their whole lives building a house that they retired in, and then boom, that it became valued so high. You know, every year I fight the value of my home. My home did not jump up that much. I am telling you, they are so full of baloney, and I fight it every year. I appeal it every year. Right. And it takes 3 appeals. I'll tell everybody the secret. It takes 3 appeals. You'll win, because they'll go, okay. Because it doesn't take me much to go out and look and see the property values didn't jump up that high. So, but here's the thing. They need their money, but they could have diversified it and spread it thin and asked for less, but gone up just a little bit more on everyone else. Instead of putting it against a certain value or something like that, they could have spread the interest rate thinner, still not hurt the retired people like Ben's talking about, the people who are trying to live comfortably the rest of their lives. And New Zealand fixed this, and Puerto Rico fixed this problem. If you live there before you're 50 and you retire there and own your home before you're 50, then after you turn 50, you don't pay taxes anymore because you've paid enough. You already paid, and or maybe it's reduced, but they're not sucking you dry while you're trying to live out the rest of your life. So I understand why they did that, but I disagree with it because it did hurt the economy, and it hurt newcomers coming in. It hurt you from going out and buying a different house, because you shouldn't have to suffer that. I think it should be based on how old you are. And if you're 50 and older, and you have paid in a lot of taxes, then your taxes should be reduced. Okay. I do. I believe that 100%, because you're not making as much money anymore. Majority of the people over 50 and 60 are getting laid off, and they can't go out and find other jobs. So that's a little soapbox, but I wanted to address that part of the law. I understood it, but I think it because nobody thought it through. They didn't go out and research these other countries, that it hurt the country. But go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
No problem. Glad that you made that point and everything, and I actually agree with what Ben said, that we need to have our young folks involved, but also those that are elderly. We need both kinds of things going on, the youth energy and the wisdom of the elderly. But my question for you, Ben, was a real quick question. When we were talking education, I was thinking about standardized testing, and I know that England is really big on standardized testing. The United States is really big on standardized testing. I think sometimes both of our countries are too big on it. And I was wondering, do you think that other countries are not using it as much? Because I know that here in the United States, and definitely in the UK, we depended on it way too much. But I'm thinking other parts of the world, maybe even India, are not using it as much. So I just want to know your thoughts on that, because I think it's something we've depended too much on.
It is, and unfortunately, we've depended on it too quickly and too young as well. I mean, I know that say that there's people of 7 and 11 have SATs. I don't get it. I don't get why.
I don't get that either.
Don't get why people of 7 and 11 are put on that under that much pressure. But Mark, it's going to be a balance. We will have it wrong. They will have it wrong. The truth is, as always, the good bits have got to be taken out of both sides of the Atlantic and also in India, etc. Their education system. And we've got to put the bad bits out. But we won't, because we're not joined up. We're not joined up as a world. We're too busy fighting internally and externally. So we won't take out the best bits. We won't take out the fluency. We won't take out the flair of certain countries. And we won't take out the standardization of countries like the States and Great Britain. And the answer is somewhere in the middle, because that is the place that we need to be. Yes, we need the standardization, but we also need the flair.
Yep.
Right. And I agree that we need to focus more on our education system. Sasha, what is your input on all this? Because, I mean, you're kind of like me. Your kids are way out of that, but I still look at it as our future, right? We need to continue. But what is your input on this? With the education?
My input on that you have to be a really well-rounded person, very adaptable to different conditions. There is no remedy, as I said before, that you get your diploma, you guaranteed high-paid job and respect in society, or so on. Even a society today is not what it used to be 30 years ago, when people would have similar values, the education, the family well-being, and so on. Today's society is very fractured, and each fraction has different values that it adores and keeps. And even that is not engraved in stone, because people are very fluid, and one people becoming from one sect, which they're very quickly migrating to another sect. And so the system of values in our society is extremely complex, and it hasn't been even described anywhere properly, simply because it keeps changing. Once you start to describe something today, and even you have fantastic writing skills, and you say by the end of the week you will have a finished product, whether it might be a book, an essay, or so on, but it's already outdated. You see, so it's impossible to describe properly the society presently, at least one in North America. So you have to be a very fluid, all-rounded person. You have to have your adaptability. It would allow you to easily find yourself either some business that you like and you would like to pursue, and you really feel that you can be successful at it, or find meaningful employment opportunities, and so on. And as I said always before, learn, invest in the stock market, because that's something what a lot of people may end up doing in the near future.
Hi, boss. You want to do top of the hour introductions?
Beam back in, beam back out, I guess. But the thing is, yes, we'll do our introductions. We have. Wait a minute. Before I do that, I've learned something about IBM.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. Now I can do the introduction.
He has the power.
I have the power. Learn something.
And he exercises it, right?
What?
You have the power and you exercise it.
Yeah, I exercise it. There you go. You know, the minute the kid finds the executive, the executive meeting, or he can do his executive discretion. Anyway, here we have Jim Eade from the Eade Foundation in San Francisco, California. We also have Kim Calhoun, who's actually the vice chair of the Computer Science Board of Advisors at North Carolina State University. We have Alexander Starr from Toronto. Now we're getting into the foreign countries. Toronto, and Alexander Starr runs Investing with Sasha, which you can see Wednesday on IBM TV, or if you're like me, you can go back and watch them on IBM TV because it's stored video on demand. So you know what you should have invested in last week. or yesterday. Okay.
Well, yesterday I said what I'm expecting to happen.
Oh, really? Okay. So
near future came, believe it or not, today.
right. So it moves pretty fast. And he also runs Chess Stars with Sasha, which is also coming up Saturday in a couple days at IBM TV. It's all, well,
it's all red today.
It's all red today. Okay. Ben Coates, who's actually from
down.
Ben. Great Britain. Oh, wait, he's our overlord. We got to realize that it is Great Britain. And then we have Bill Tresevant from the Tower of Power, Washington, D.C.
Another different country.
He also does our Washington Report. You may have heard it. 5-minute Washington Report next week. He's starting American Politics. And I have some people for you. I have some senators to send to you. And actually, Hermana, who's not here, actually has some senators to send you also. So eventually you'll work your way up to this thing called the president. But let's start with the senators right now. Okay, and then we have Mark Lee, who runs the Mark Lee. He has the dinner hour, which I think is pretty cool, and also does the radio show on Mark Lee's Radio Hour on Mondays at IBM TV. And how often does you're here, Mark. How often does your dinner party run anyway? How many days do you run that?
Yeah, the dinner party runs every Wednesday between the hours of 4 and 7. And I've actually got a little test for Sasha, since he said that he is a master of history and all of that. So, there's a mystery guest, which is usually a picture of a historical figure. And that was the one that ran yesterday. So it was somebody, I'm actually going to give a few more clues than I gave yesterday, but it was somebody from Europe who was known politically and definitely was involved in politics, we'll say maybe 100 years or so ago. And they were known for walking around a very famous city, walking with their lion named Tiger. So that's the clues. Sasha, can you tell me who that was?
No, I give up.
Hey, Mark, we're going to have a trivia show coming up. So the thing is, but that would be a great question for the trivia show.
Speaking about food, remember Rick was making an observation what a wonderful food is today in the world, that people cannot stop eating, and eating is number one thing. It's higher than sports, sex, and politics, anything else. But I want to tell you something about actually our friends from Great Britain, is that about 30, 40 years ago, even 30, even 25, all what London was, as a food is concerned, there were greasy fish and chip places, and that's, well, basically fish and chips is a major contribution of English to world cuisine. However,
I go to Paris to get my fish and chips.
However, today, London is the food capital of the world.
You're kidding.
Fantastic restaurants, all kinds. I even remember one Italian restaurant right on Piccadilly Square, where I had lunch with Anatoly Karpov and his wife. And guess what? I was the only person that Karpov paid the bill.
Oh, whoa, you got Karpov to pay the bill.
Wow.
And you actually ate in the foggy little island. By the way, Ben, is that how they address the Great Britain right now? Does everybody in Europe call you the foggy little island? Is
right.
That how you're known?
You call us what we tell you to call us, firstly. That's the first point. Secondly, our fish and chips have never, ever been greasy, Sasha. They've always been spot on. We are the king of fish and chips. And thirdly, wait there, sir. Wait there. Thirdly, if you're going to come over and have our fish and chips, sir, you've got to have a cup of English tea as well. There you go. There's me.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. English tea, baby.
I must tell you, I don't know how many of you watched a movie Demolition Man. That was a funny movie back in the 90s, I believe. So the idea was that this main guy, I think it was Sylvester Stallone. Yeah. Okay, so he's in the future in about 2035, something like that. At that time in the 90s, so we consider that a distant future, but doesn't matter. So he's in the future, and they revived him, and now tell him, we are going to take you to a fantastic restaurant for dinner. They're coming, 5 stars restaurant. The grand piano, the pianist is playing. It's so everybody in white smokings. Now the name of the restaurant though is Taco Bell. So he's looking and I said, "Is that a Taco Bell? What is it?" He says, "Yeah, well, in the early 2000s, there was a restaurant war, and Taco Bell became a winner, and they bought all the restaurants, and now all restaurants have name Taco Bell."
But
Oh,
not,
that's English fish and chips.
yeah, and they're not greasy.
He's trying to defend Great Britain from the assault by Russia and the United States on Great Britain's culinary delights.
Well,
Now,
they have the fish and chips, but I don't drink it with tea. I drink it with Guinness.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to ask about the fish and chips that because I want to go over there and taste it because I've always dined on that here. Did you put like a vinegar on them or anything like that?
Yeah, fish, salt and vinegar. You got to have salt and vinegar.
Yes.
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
salt and vinegar.
Wait a moment.
It's
Speaking
greasy in
about
the
tea,
south here, but it's not greasy there. So I can't wait to taste that.
But today,
What kind of
the
fish?
United Kingdom is in the hot seat today.
What kind of fish?
speaking about tea, very important observation. Yesterday, two German diplomats in Moscow, they were offered some tea. They
Oh,
said,
no.
Thank you.
No, no.
Don't drink the tea.
Don't drink the tea, not the tea.
No, thanks.
You're a German diplomat in Moscow and you're offering tea.
We don't
Not sure
put-
about
we
that
don't-
one.
We don't put certain things in our tea over in Britain. That's only put in by other people, allegedly.
There's no allegedly to it. We put sugar in our tea and we like our sweet tea. So
Well,
I think
Bill,
that's what you're
what do you have
referring
to say?
Well, one, I mean, Sasha, I appreciate your observation. It's timely, it's witty, it's charming, but is nothing sacred, young man? Of all things, it's nothing sacred.
What do
but-
you put in your tea, Sasha?
Okay. Well, no, actually, Ben, I've never had fish and chips, and I'm waiting for the time that I go over to England just to get fish and chips because I hear so much about it. And I thought I did not want to make the mistake of buying, a lesser version from your expelled cousins here in America, rather than going and tasting the original, Ben. So, out of deference to you, I'm looking forward to fish and chips.
You have
Well-
to have fish and chips because you can't eat Indian food all day. So
Oh, really?
You know what? I've just been on, as you know, I've just been on to the Welsh coast. The fish and chips are always better by the coast anyway because the fish is fresher. But
Obviously.
just to come back to the tea question, these days sugar is obviously fattening, and obviously we all know about the sugar. So you've got to have honey in it these days, honey or syrup.
Oh wow! I like
and honey is better than syrup.
I like honey.
I
I'm a big honey fan.
How do
Well, I've
we have
actually
to?
had fish and chips, and I enjoyed the fish and chips because when I had them, believe it or not, this is kind of coming back to our person that said that they had good Indian food in England. I mean, good
There
Indian
was-
food in London. I had good fish and chips in Durham, North Carolina. So I actually enjoyed some fish and chips right here at a very popular restaurant that is owned by an Englishman. So definitely I got the right fish and chips. So I had the right kind. So I've
Okay,
had some.
but
So
Mark,
it was very
were
good.
they greasy like they are
No.
in London? That's my question. Were they
not
greasy?
They
Like
were
they're
not
in London.
greasy. They were not greasy at all. I also have
There
to
we go.
tease Sasha about something as well because he was talking about this movie and it shows how Hollywood changes things. Because in the movie, I think he said Taco Bell took over like all of these restaurants and everything. That's now impossible because there's this certain restaurant that has a colonel as their person that now runs Taco Bell. So that movie
That's true.
is now obsolete because of that.
Yeah.
Well, it's too bad for restaurants because if in a movie Taco Bell took them over, so today half of the restaurants will disappear themselves and there will be no takeovers. It will be simply 50% of restaurants will remain. and
Is Jim doing a commercial now for the dollar store? Is that what's going on over there? Are you about to play Sasha?
Thank gosh for the dollar store.
There
Oh
we go.
my
Extreme
goodness
hot
gracious.
patch.
And,
Right.
and to be fair, Sasha, I think you've actually got yourself banned from all fish and chip shops in the UK today. So I'd like to congratulate you there.
And Mark, I'm sorry. I
Oh
love
my
Durham.
God.
It's the ambiance of England when you have the fish and chips. You got to have it on the coast, and you got to be in England. Otherwise, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I heard
Wait
they
a
were.
minute. Aren't you the one that likes Indian food from London? So how does that work?
Yeah. The best Indian food I've ever had.
I heard from somebody on the panel that they were greasy, and you don't want greasy fish and chips. You know,
They weren't greasy when I ate them in England.
oh, they weren't. Okay, all right.
Well,
So, wait a minute. We have Great Britain defending their
Okay.
territories that are left,
Well-
which is the foggy little island.
And I'm still here to fight the Greece argument. Sasha's disappeared, so I think that means I have won.
Yes.
And on that note, I need to go and make my own fish and chips and off five in the UK.
All right, half
High
past
five.
5. We'll see you,
Get in
man.
there.
All
Ta-ra.
right, good to know. We learned something today. No greasy fish and chips.
Take
So,
care, man.
that-
Boy,
that-
he's always he just laughs. I wonder if somebody writes his jokes for him.
I don't know.
Oh, that's spontaneous. You can tell.
I'm just
Go ahead.
joking. Rick was here, and to learn that he was writing the jokes for a lot of
Jimmy
famous
Kimmel?
people.
Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel.
Well, I'm sorry. While we were on the food subject, I had one more question for the panel, and that is, in today's Washington Report and other news, we discovered and disclosed a nugget, and I'm sorry that our Australian panelists aren't here, but McDonald's is suing Burger King over Burger King's, quote, Big Jack, which they
Yeah.
claim is
Right.
an endorsement of their Big Mac.
Because it
Oh, Big
sounds like
Jack.
it.
Big
Yeah.
Mac.
That's right, Big
Oh,
Mac.
seriously, okay, because I don't get that.
And there's a big fight in Australia. So I
Yeah.
don't. So our Australian viewers, I mean, I don't know if they can send us an email and tell us what the deal is. But apparently,
Shaquille would be on.
Yeah,
Shaquille's
but he's
going for
not
the
going to be
Big
on now because the thing is, it's like 4:00 in the morning right now in Australia. So the thing is that they're not on to defend why Big Mac and Big Jack are fighting each other over in Australia. They haven't fought over here on that issue, have they, Bill?
no, no, they haven't, because it's all, I don't think Burger King has ever introduced the Big Jack. But
Right.
all I know is that on top of everything going on in the world, the election, the pandemic, the economic crisis, we have a food fight. And
We have a food fight.
Literally a food
Animal
fight.
House.
have a food
There
fight.
you
Animal House.
I don't know how the world ends.
So
There it is.
Here it is. Wait a minute. Big Jack.
That looks like a little guy next
Oh,
to the
wait a
Big
minute.
Jack.
wait a minute. Okay.
It's a
We
Big Jack.
were doing.
It's a double stack burger with cheese. So 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese
on a sesame seed
on
bun.
a sesame seed bun.
Right. Now,
Well, if they said that, I would sue them. But
okay, well,
Fred,
so-
Fred,
Good jingle.
question is do any of you remember Shoney's?
yes, I do.
Yes,
The
definitely.
original special sauce that Big Mac, I think, was using came from Shoney's. If you ever remember the original Shoney's burger,
Mhm.
no.
my dad used to take me, and that's why I weighed so much as a kid. But it was similar. It was, I mean, I'll never forget the first time I ate a Big Mac, and I compared it to the Shoney's burger. And I go, God, this is horrible compared to the Shoney's burger.
Okay.
So,
Well,
but-
I was just wondering about the issue of the trademark infringement. I know that was a big discussion. And Jim, I put it in the report, especially for your audience, and how lawyers are a barrier to
Innovation.
and trademark infringements. Because it seems to me these lawyers are doing very well defending.
Oh, I bet they are.
Well, see, Jim wouldn't pay him, and if he doesn't pay the lawyer, you're going to lose the case. I'm sorry.
If you looked at my checkbook, you know I pay lawyers.
Oh, you do pay lawyers. Okay. Hey, Jim has just become my best friend.
God, that's so funny.
That's how you become best friend.
Well, I'm
Well, this-
sitting here reading one of the articles about this fight and everything, and even what they're describing is, it says the Big Jack is made with 2 Aussie beef patties, lettuce, pickles, cheese, and onions, sandwiched between a 3-piece, and it's also said to include a special sauce. That sounds very familiar. So,
That does
like I
sound
said,
very
I can see
familiar,
where
but-
they definitely can go and think that they've got a claim.
but
Oh,
at
come
the
on,
same
Wendy.
time, a Big Jack.
What about
is,
Wendy's? Come
a
on.
Big Jack is not a Big Mac. I mean,
It's not. It just sounds like it. Yeah, I mean, come on.
sort of. But if I look at a Big Jack, I look at a Big Mac. I'm looking at 2 different things. But when I see the picture, then I got a little bit of a problem because the picture looks like a Big Mac. But I don't know if they trademarked the picture or if they even can. In other words, it may be what they call highly descriptive, and because it's highly descriptive, there are certain things you can't trademark, even if you use it all the time. Otherwise, somebody said, "Look, I use the alphabet all the time; it's mine now." I mean, come on. After a while, you're limited as to what your trademark will actually cover. I think it would cover
trademarked the
Big
word
Mac.
funny.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. Trademark. Well, somebody said they trademarked the what is it? Happy Birthday song or some.
I heard
like
that was trademarked a long time ago, but I think they finally, I think even Rick confirmed it. They finally did. But check it out. This was the Shoney's double burger way back in the day before Big Mac came about.
Oh,
So,
Big Boy. I knew the Big Boy.
Big Boy. I remember the Big Boy. Yeah, but the thing is, but also let's look at this from another angle, panelist. This stuff is really unhealthy for you. Have you looked at the calories in this stuff? I mean, it's like 1,040 calories, 1,200
That's enough
calories.
for a day.
You know, so if I created a hamburger called the Big Trash, okay, would that be in conflict with them, the Big Trash? And I show the same hamburger with the 1,560 calories, the Big Trash.
Nick, right off the bat, just as a gut reaction, as an attorney taking the other side, I'd be my argument would be that you are trying to intentionally hurt my brand as of the Big Mac, and I would sue.
Oh, what do you mean hurt your brand, dude? Okay, go ahead and sue. Come on, come get some suit here. Okay, what do you mean hurt your brand? I use the truth as a defense.
No,
1,600 calories, and I'll bring in my stack of evidence. You know, lawyers like
You mean
all
the
these people who have died.
Nick, call it the
I
Big
eat that
Fat.
trash.
Call it the Big Fat, not the
Big Fat. Okay, the Big
Sorry,
Fat.
that's even better for me because you are intentionally flooding the market with an identical product so as to confuse and hurt. It's called, and on top of that, not even just an infringement, I would bring out tortuous interference with a third-party contract because you were interfering with my business, and that's a tort, punitive damages, 3 times.
Well, we got two lawyers going back to
Speaking of which,
fighting each other here
speaking
now.
of which, I'm glad to bring.
Nick, I got a question for you. Do you know what took Shoney's down? Speaking of lawyers,
no,
it was actually a class action suit. Was the main reason that they went out. It was a class action lawsuit back in the late 1980s. I actually remember that because I was working for a minority newspaper at the time, and one of those gentlemen is still very much involved in labor rights. So I might try to get him on one of the shows. And Gaza Laughing House was very much involved in that case.
We actually have an attorney who's a professor of law from Georgia State joining us on Economics Monday, and we have another professor who used to be with the American College who will also be joining us on Monday. Economics Monday. Bill, let's bring up this and let's go at the Big Mac, Big Trash lawsuit and get their opinion about that, because anybody who reads legal opinions, you know what it is. It's an opinion. Some agree, some disagree, some concur, and then today there's
you always get paid.
That's always a given, Jim. Okay, but now you're my best friend because I know you pay lawyers. The minute you said that, man, you're in good stead. If somebody said, "Well, I don't like to pay lawyers," then they end up getting deleted from the conversation.
Startup Wednesdays, I said, man, you got to pay your lawyers.
Got to pay your lawyer, man. You got to pay your lawyer. Well, we're going to have a couple on Economics Monday, so hopefully you'll be able to join Economics Monday and listen to lawyers. But let's bring that up. I don't want to surprise the lawyers, so on Sunday, Bill, I put together a schedule and topics.
Okay.
I'll put that as a topic because today everybody thinks, oh, they just go to court there. They didn't. No. With Discovery, everything is pre-staged before you go in front of a jury.
That's right.
It's all pre-staged. They've already gone through everything. You're just part of the show, part of the presentation, and part of the way for lawyers to make money. And now there's other ways to make money and save money, but then you have to know where to go to save money, and that would be the dollar store. Oh, look who showed up. He showed up again, just on cue. Lynn Shepard from the Family Dollar Store. After the attorneys have taken all your money and you got to start all over again, you go to the dollar store, a place to save money, and also has some good food. I'm not sure how healthy it is, but boy, I order their food and I love it. Okay, so tell us a little bit about the dollar store for our viewers.
I'll tell you, that's 2 days in a row, Nick, that you just cued it right in and brought me onto the show at the right time. So we'll talk about our family's online dollar store. And the name is family.dollarstore.com, or the link is, but you don't have to remember that, because if you go to the IBM TV website, there's a big round button. It's green. You can click on it. It takes you right to the dollar store. So we have 4,300 items on our dollar store, or over 4,300 items. Mark is going to have to get to work because I thought he was up at 4,119 at one point, but then I found out he was only pulling my leg, and he really has only gotten to around 2,500 or so. So there you go. But we do have over 4,300 items. As Jim would
2,600 that I'm at.
As Jim would tell you, they're very quality items, and Bill, I know, has picked up on that. And we have masks. So look at this. We're all putting our masks on. And the masks, we have, by the way, free delivery for orders of $25 and over. So if you get a box of the face masks, the face mask costs $25, and you get 50 of them. So, Bill, I'm going to ask you, just because I know that you've been paying attention and have this memorized, how much is that per mask?
50 cents.
See, 50 cents. Look at Jim. He's so upset at me for ignoring him today. Okay. So Bill, I'm going to give it to you again. So we have gift tokens.
Yeah.
And the gift tokens, just for signing up to become a customer, you get $5 worth of gift tokens.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the save $5 means. So if you buy 50 masks for $25 and apply your gift tokens, so it only costs $20, then what?
It's 40 cents.
It's 40 cents. Okay. Yeah, good for you, Jim. I mean, Bill, I saw that Jim was over there trying to figure it out on his phone quickly. Anyway, no, it's right. Okay. So then, because for people who become customers in the month of September, and I did extend this, we are going to give those people an extra $5 worth of gift tokens. So now it's $10. Oh, Jim, look at Jim. So it's going to cost 30 cents when you apply all the gift tokens. So anyway, we encourage people to go to the store because why? We are giving all of our profit through the end of September to Money Masters PBS. We love the mission. Money Masters PBS owns IBM TV. We love the mission. The mission is reducing the gap between poverty and financial sustainability by providing financial education that results in financial fitness. And look at all these items. We have Glad sandwich bags. I mean, they're quality items. Gerber bottles. We have hand sanitizers. We have Visine. We have the Extreme patches. So Jim, I know, is a big subscriber to the CBD patches, and he uses them all the time because when he's going to go play Sasha in chess, we know that he always has problems. So he has to put them on his head because he knows in advance he's going to have pain. But then the other thing is, for all chess players, moving those chess pieces around the board it can really hurt. You get tendinitis. So you've got to put them on put the patches on your arm. But so all seriousness aside, I have a bad back, and occasionally I'll use it on my back. I also work in the garden a lot. And I have some tendinitis in my arms because digging with a shovel, you do get tendinitis. So now Jim is showing us some more CBD products because we do have a lot of great CBD products. We have quality items from Johnson & Johnson, Fisher Price, but I think Kimberly's doing this because she started the Minion Napkin Club. So for everybody that becomes a customer, we encourage you to just buy Minion napkins so that you can all belong to the Minion Napkin Club. And I know Kimberly loves the fact that on the back of the napkins, we have all sorts of pictures of the Minions. Now, so as I said, through the end of September, you can get an additional $5 worth of gift tokens. But through the end of September, we're also giving all of our profit to IBM or to Money Masters PBS. So what happens, Bill? There are 5 aspects, Bill, and you know these 5 aspects. Do you remember number 1?
No.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No.
Well, when number 1 is when you shop and you can save, you have money, therefore that you've saved, and you should always look to save. Okay. So saving is the aspect of 1. Number 2, when you saved, you have money to be able to pay for your normal expenses. But if you saved correctly, you're going to have extra money left over to 3, invest. And when you invest, you'll also have money to pay your taxes. And by the way, when you invest, you need to go to Sasha's show next Wednesday. And because Sasha runs a great show on investing every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. But then we missed the last point. And the last point is, when it's all said and done, you will have money left over to pay forward and give to the charity of your choice. When you shop at the dollar store, you're accomplishing 2 of those things at once. You're saving money, but you're also paying forward. Number 1 and number 5 at the same time. You're saving money and you're helping us contribute and make payments to Money Masters PBS and make contributions to them, because we're giving them all of our profit through the end of September. So we encourage you to become a customer and shop, because there are lots of great items there. When you look back at what was being shared before, there are some beauty products that over the counter cost $25. We sell for $2. Jim, look at Jim. He's been using them. You can tell that. Look at them. Or the line removers that Amazon sells for $67. We sell for $4.99. They charge shipping. You buy your masks. Okay, get some CBD products. Get your Minion napkins, and get the line remover. Delivery is free. So,
wow.
Anyway, so
like
Bill,
Nick said, they've got great food, and that's on the Cookie Monster.
Yeah, well, the Cookie Monster, because we have lots of good food. But Bill, I could tell you were going to ask a question.
Oh, well, I was going to talk how it actually can help save people money, and they can help other people during this times of trouble, particularly in the South.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you're here to cue me, because I forgot about that. But think about Hurricane Laura that happened down in Louisiana. That was it the worst hurricane that they've had down there in recorded history?
Yeah.
It was a Category 4, a little bit less than Sandy, which hit us here in the Northeast, which was a Category 5. But Laura decimated Lake Charles, Louisiana. So we don't want the people in Lake Charles to have to go back home to try and figure out where they're going to get their essential items. And so you can send, as it says here, essentials to those in need. Just find out a local organization that is providing essentials to these people, get their address, and ship stuff from the dollar store to these people. And we have new dry food products. We obviously can't ship perishables, but we can ship dry products to the people down in the St. Charles area where they can pick up food. So things that Mark likes and that I know Kimberly likes, some of the noodles and things like that. Some of the things that college kids would love to have, you can get from the dollar store, and we can help. Nick is going to ask.
I just have 2 questions. Do you have greasy fish and chips like they do over in London, or do you have Indian food on the Family Dollar store?
Not yet.
Greasy fish and chips.
Ramen noodles are the closest.
No, the noodles are the closest.
Okay.
However, However, think about this, because think about Bill's suggestion. If you're shipping to someone who's supporting the people in Louisiana who really need help right now, you're doing three things. You're saving money, you're helping the people in Louisiana, and you're helping Money Masters PBS because of the donations that we're making to Money Masters PBS. So that's three things that you can do with each purchase. So why not? Now, where's Ben? Because we need to get Ben to give us fish and chips. Well, we'll have to talk about that with Ben when he comes on. I think Nick,
Yay!
Look, Nick.
It's hot and spicy, and
It is. Yeah.
I couldn't resist it.
Perfect for Louisiana.
I couldn't resist it because I love shrimp and I love hot and spicy. And I got this from the dollar store. You know all the other food I got from the dollar store? You know where that is, Lynn?
Where is that?
All gone.
All gone.
It's the only thing that hasn't been eaten yet.
I was going to say it was in your stomach. Now here's the thing. We don't deliver to right now. It's too expensive to deliver to foreign countries. Maybe Toronto, where Sasha lives. But you know, as Sasha knows, getting things across through Border Patrol in Canada is a real problem. Which, I mean, for instance, it's our daughter-in-law's birthday next week, and we're going to have a gift card shipped to her because we can't do anything from the dollar store. So in India, and I know there's been a lot of demand for an online store in India, or Malaysia, where Sharif is, or where Willie Hill is in Melbourne, or where Rakesh is in Hong Kong, or even where he normally lives in New Zealand. All of that is in the works. But I did forget. We can ship to one of those, a foreign country, and I forgot about this. It is the Socialist Republic of Northern California, which is probably why Jim's picture, why he's gone from the show, and it's just his picture up there, because he doesn't want to acknowledge that we do ship to his foreign country where he lives. So there you go. Okay. Well, I guess Jim is did I insult Jim enough so he decided to leave us?
Oh, I don't think so.
No, we got another show going on.
No, wait. I see what he's doing. He's actually ordering right now from the Family Dollar store.
Good for
he's
him.
a little busy right now.
Good for him.
I'm sure he'll be back very shortly. And for those people who are watching IBM TV, I believe at 1 o'clock today we have Gamers Den. It's going to be on a different channel, so you're going to have to. I don't know if they have to flip on. We do if we want to be on. Anybody here wants to be on Gamers Den, you've got to go to the Gamers Den link site to get on. Do you have that site, Mark? Are you going to be on Gamers Den?
I'm getting ready to jump off here shortly. I do have that link, and of course, my good friend Jatovi will be over there giving us all kinds of game tips.
Now, yeah, and Gamers Den is so popular. It's now it's got its separate site, and we're going to deliver it to a lot of people because they can't see it now because they're in school, et cetera, but they want to see it later on. They have the game of the week, so we're going to be able to see what the game of the week is this week on Gamers Den. And certainly I see that being a very popular show for people that do video games and want to know what the game of the week is, or learn more about the video game industry so you can talk to your grandkids and your kids about it, because other than that, you won't know. Now, a person knows a lot about games has just arrived. Jimmy, there he is. Okay.
There you go.
So, somehow he's done ordering from the dollar store. And Jim, are you going to be on Gamers Den afterwards today?
That's the plan.
Okay, right, because it's a separate site and everybody's got to shift over to a separate site, but we've had a lot of demand for it, and we're going to send it out separately to people that want the Gamers Den. It's going to be on following Podcasters Thursday on IBM TV. So we've got like a lot of good programming coming up, including Sasha this Saturday. We have Chess Stars. Can you give us a preview? What's going on Chess Stars coming up this Saturday?
Yes, last Saturday we had a fantastic, very well attended contest between Grandmasters Mikhail Marin from Romania and Sweet Atalik from Turkey. The game was very, very interesting, and we are going to have this Saturday both Grandmasters and Mikhail Marin, as usual, with his wife, wonderful Maria, who is a great artist, as we know, and Michael Hofer, who did commentaries with me on that contest, will go very deep into analysis of the contest, the game, not only just moves which were played and why they were played, and Grandmasters will have chance to respond and overview their moves, but also how the contest itself developed, what people make, whatever bets on which moves, how many crowns, because I have a printout. It's like anatomy of the contest. So I have all the participants, not all, but top 10, for example, and I have all moves, what they predicted on, how many crowns they put, who was the winner, which move was actually made. So all that will be available, and we will go very, very deep into analysis of the contest, and we'll discuss how to improve that experience. Most likely, we are going to have on each contest only one game instead of two games. So instead of both games played in one Saturday, we will have one game on one Saturday and second game on second Saturday. So it will be a little bit less time consuming, because it's now taken about 2.5 hours. It's a little bit too much. I mean, for chess live,
Right, because you're doing more than one game.
Package. Yeah,
right.
it will become a better package.
Okay, Chess Without Borders. What do we have coming up with Chess Without Borders, Jim?
Ask the question again. I have a short.
What do you have? Who do you have coming up with Chess Without Borders on IBM TV? Who do you have?
Well, I have the World Blindfold King, Timur, who is going to be on my show with his selected guest, a master from New York City, Brian Hall.
Oh, really? And the World Blindfold Chess, how many chess games has he played simultaneously blindfold?
Well, according to my notes, it's 48.
You are correct. And what year was that played, and in what city?
Okay, Nick, you got me.
Las Vegas, Nevada, in 2016. For what it's worth. Anyway, that'll be on the trivia show, which we haven't set up yet, but we'll set that up eventually. And then American politics. What are we doing on American politics? Bill.
Well, actually, we have some very interesting guests lined up, including a former presidential candidate from this year's election. We will be exploring various topics, at least initially, regarding the race as it stands. And then we will be going straight to the horse's mouth. We will be talking with senators on their election efforts, both sides, because we are a nonpartisan show just dedicated to making sure that we inform our viewers and provide a platform for our elected leaders to simply talk to the American public.
Yeah, you have an American presidential candidate on IBM TV?
Yes, that is our schedule, and it's a female. Her name is Mosey Boyd. And
really? Wow.
She ran for president of the United States. She was on a number of the ballots. Her campaign sign was True Grit, and she made quite an impact. More important, she's also the head of a group called Madam President, which is an organization designed for supporting efforts of electing women to the highest office in the land. And they've been quite active across the entire United States. Following that, just as another teaser, we are working on setting up an interview with a professor who wrote a book on breaking the glass ceiling. And so we are currently in discussions with her to get her on the show to provide context and a basis as we walk into the remaining days of this election cycle, and perhaps post-election, depending on what, if any, is disputed. And then, of course, our elected officials. And as you know, Nick, we here at IBM TV provide a nonpartisan, open forum and platform for people to discuss issues and explore ideas without the attack or the viciousness or the rancor, yelling or screaming, of the outside world. because
Yeah.
I like to say that since we are an international network, we really are in the friends business. Friends across the globe, friends here at home, friends across the aisle as well, Nick.
Yeah. Yeah, and I totally agree with you, because some of these reporters, they're almost like jumping out of their skin to ask these people questions. I'm going, guys, what's going on here? But instead, we have a whole different attitude in IBM TV. And Mark, what do we have coming up on your radio hour? What's coming up Monday? Give us a preview.
Yeah, we've got a couple of great guests, and I'm looking at Sean Dina, who is a musician, should be coming on, and I'm also talking to some political figures as well as an author friend, Dawn Langley. So I'm hoping that she'll be able to join us this time as well. So I'm definitely talking to her about jumping on to one of the episodes. So looking forward to that, and I might have a guest just like you do for Bill, because a good friend of mine ran for vice president, and no, it's not Kamala, but ran for vice president the last election under the CWP ticket. So definitely looked at that party and ran on that ticket. Some people may know the CWP as Angela Davis's party, but he did make a run for vice president, that being Lamont Lilly. And by the way, go back and check out yesterday's show of the online dinner party. We had Dr. Fola May on. Dr. Fola May was sharing her concerns about colon cancer and its impact on the minority community, and was out of UCLA. And we also had Reverend Carl Kinney on talking about liberation theology, the BLM movement, as well as a number of other political things. And I'm actually talking to him about seeing about joining our family. But Carl Kinney is a noted journalist and a noted activist, so he was on this show. And by the way, Sasha, since I've already told people that you got to play the game during the time of the game and the time of the show, I will give you the answer. The answer to the trivia quiz that I asked earlier was Marguerite Durand, and she was a feminist out of Paris, France, and she walked around all over the city of Paris. I believe it was in the late 1800s into the 1900s with her lion, and the lion's name was Tiger. So she actually named the lion Tiger, but it was Marguerite Durand.
That's a great question, Mark. I mean, the thing is that may stump our Trivia Tuesday group, when we start Trivia Tuesday coming up, because that was a really good question. Now, if she was naked, she would be famous, right? Like Lady Godiva, but she didn't go that far, I would assume. She just took the tiger, not the other way around. So we have some great programming coming up on IBM TV. Make sure you stay tuned for Gamers Den, which follows this one. And yes, I did get to see some of the online dinner party. If you missed it, it's all VOD, so it's stored on IBM TV. Which it was a great series, the online dinner party. It's still on IBM TV VOD, so you can go visit that, and you could even watch the chess games through Chess Stars and Chess Without Borders. And boy, that was a signal. But wait a minute, I still have 5 minutes. I got plenty of time. What the heck was that?
Whoa, time out, Nick. I know that's an eternity, and I know you want to go back to the big trash, but no. We're not going back to the fight over the big trash.
It's the big fat. It's not the big fat.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
How does somebody play chess blindfolded?
Okay, we need the blindfold expert to explain this. Jimmy.
I played my the rest of my high school team blindfolded, and what it is you basically have your back. We call it blindfolded, but we don't do it with the blindfold anymore. But you have your back turned. They can look at their boards while you're not looking at any board, and they call out their moves. And so board one will say, pawn to king 4 or e4, and I will respond e6. And board 2 will say d4, and I will respond d5. And so each player makes a move. Then you go back to board 1, and they call out their second move, and I respond with my second move, and you go on and on like that.
Right.
Nick,
So
go ahead. Sorry, Lynn.
but just so this person who did this in Vegas did 40 at one time.
48. He set the world record. Okay,
Wow.
listen, he set the world record. By the way, Jim was playing what is known as the French defense. Okay, but he's only playing on one board. Okay, so he can manage that one board pretty easy because he can watch.
I did 4.
I know. Well, it's a little harder. As you start adding boards, it becomes a little harder. So you add board number 2. So that goes E4, E6, D4, D5. Board 1 could be E4, C5, NF3, NC6. Then board 3 is a different series. And you keep doing that, Lynn, until you have 48 of them.
Wow.
And Teamer actually did 48. George Kaltanowski, I think, had the world record before that. He beat George's record and now holds the world record for simultaneous blindfold. He will be on IBM TV coming up on Chess Without Borders. Jim Eads secured the interview. I was trying to steal Teamer from him, but I was unable to do so because of their relationship.
The master that.
So,
Nick, I do have one question. Did he win, or maybe Jim knows, did he win all 48 games, or did he just play 48 games? Because I'm really going to be impressed if he won all 48 games. I'm already impressed that he played 48, but did he win all 48?
He won the overwhelming majority.
He won the majority of them, but he'll be able to tell you the exact score, the exact time, the exact place. And if he's really good, he can replay the games that he played. Ooh. On board 3, I played E4, C5, knight F3, knight C6, bishop B5. Then he played G6, etc. And they go through the whole thing. So it's a really fantastic thing that people only on IBM TV can experience, because generally people don't like to talk about simultaneous blindfold chess. It's not the most exciting thing, but he's going to be one of our exclusive interviews on
Nick,
IBM
it was
TV.
a party trick that my friends, whenever we would go to a party and different people were there, they would make me play a blindfold game just to be the geek of the day. And so I would play and to entertain at a party.
Right, yeah, it's a party. It's a party trick. Okay,
it's a party trick.
You know, you play simultaneous blindfold chess with a bunch of people.
So Jim can do that for me next week at the online dinner party. I think I have a plan.
Yeah. Well,
Jim?
he could. I have no doubts. See, here's the thing: once you hit master strength and above, almost all of them can play blindfold chess. It's just the nature of the beast. It means the pieces have beaten into your head way too often. Okay, I have no doubts that Jim can play simultaneous blindfold chess at your dinner party, and I have no doubts also Jim will probably be the victor because he's a FIDE master.
Oh,
I mean,
he's and me and Jim have actually got to bounce off to get to the Gamers Den and anybody else that wants to join and everything. But before we bounce off, don't we have, speaking of things that are going on at IBM TV, this month, don't we have a very important event that's about the world and the way we want the world? So could you talk about that too?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because the thing is coming up September 18th, IBM is the official sponsor of the World Peace Day, otherwise known as the International Day of Peace. It is September International Day of Peace. Yes, it's the September 18th through the 21st, but the official day is the 21st.
There you go.
Okay, so the 21st, Economics Monday, is going to be disbanded, as we're going to spend the entire day on World Peace Day only at IBM TV. You will not see us on ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, or all the others, because they don't celebrate peace.
Thanks to
and
Nick.
all those. What?
They celebrate war, Nick.
I will not. I'll defer that comment to counsel. Okay, so the thing is, you know,
no one's objecting.
Yeah, no one's objecting. We celebrate peace at IBM TV, so we want peace domestically, peace internationally, and since we're broadcast now more than 100 countries, I think it's very important. This morning I was I was actually on time. I just finished a conference that's going to be on IBM TV with Bangladesh and Malaysia. So the thing is, we have a big following in Bangladesh and Malaysia, and so we want to make sure that we send the right message by being a sponsor of World Peace Day, and that will be on September 21st of this year. So yeah, we got some exciting things coming up on IBM TV. And the other thing coming up is, because I'm looking at the time, we have 3 more minutes. I'll give you the 2-minute warning. And then we're going to have to, some of you guys may have to bolt to the Gamers Den. I think we have a producer who's going to be starting that. So we make sure that we start the Gamers Den on time. But that's another exciting show that we have. But I'm looking forward to seeing Jim's show, since he stole my the blindfold king. Oh boy, 48 games simultaneously.
Yeah, and we shouldn't have war between us, Nick.
There we go.
I will say this. I take back a lot of the stuff I've said by Jim. He really about Jim. He really impresses me that he can remember all of that. So Jim,
Yeah,
You know,
he can
Thank
fool,
you.
he can
Thank
fool a
you.
lot of people with that cap on, but the thing is, he is what he is. That cap may not fool
well,
everybody.
he knows I love him anyways. It's
Yeah.
just
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
we
but,
just have
but he
all
landed
good
the
fun.
exclusive interview. He landed the exclusive interview. Okay,
So I
so
just
Bill, go on.
Well,
Yeah,
just one last thing, and that is we talk about being neutral on IBM TV and presenting all the sides. Why does Bill only have the Buffalo Bills helmet up?
that's an
good
absolutely
question,
good
Nick.
question.
I mean, Lynn,
Talk
that was a
talk
good
about
question.
neutrality.
It's Buffalo
If you look
Bill.
in the right-hand corner, it is the Buffalo Bills. Are you kidding me? I can't believe
Buffalo
it.
Bill.
Hey,
Yeah.
Bill, you
Yeah.
know that we cannot be partisan on IBM TV. I hope you certainly understand that when it comes to football. So the thing
Come
is,
on.
the thing is, football season is starting, and that's something that we don't
Where's the
cover
Eagles
currently on
cap,
IBM
Len?
TV.
Come on.
I gotta
know.
get it. I have to get it.
Yeah, we don't cover that because it's not recognized internationally. But
Well,
defend yourself, sir.
at least I can kind of rely on Sasha because he's in Toronto and Buffalo's right across the Peace Bridge. See, emphasis on
There you go.
Sasha.
Good segue.
It's a peace bridge, not a war bridge. It's
That's
Not
right.
a war bridge, the peace bridge. Yeah, we do need stuff like that, the peace bridge, the war bridge. But we're not sponsoring International War Day. Frankly, I don't even know when that is. But we're going to sponsor International Peace Day. People from
I'll
Hawaii.
tell you when they are.
Where?
All remaining
365
365 days, they are war
Look at this
days.
guy.
There's
That's all
one
it is.
Father's Day, there's one Mother's Day, there's one Peace Day.
One Peace Day, and the rest of it isn't. So we do want to thank everybody for being at IBM TV. Please stay tuned for Gamers Dead. We will see you next week.
I gotta
on
go.
Podcasters Thursday.
Hey, Nick.